To our Layton City Council meeting this evening. The date is June 5th and our start time is 7 p.m. So with that, as many of you know, we like to start all of our meetings with a prayer and a pledge, and we take turns up here on the dais for that. And this month, it will be Councilmember Roberts' turn to be able to conduct the meeting. So, Councilman Roberts, I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. For future reference, it's a dangerous thing to call a council member and tell them you're going to be at the meeting when it's their turn to ask for the prayer. So I've asked my friend Karen Smith to come up, longtime resident of Layton and hometown hero of Layton as well. So I'll ask Karen to give the opening prayer, and then I'll lead us in the pledge.
Our Father in heaven, we come before Thee on this beautiful summer evening with gratitude in our hearts for the blessings of living in this beautiful community. We're thankful for the peace and prosperity that we enjoy here. We're thankful for those who have such good hearts, who are willing to work for the betterment of this community. We pray that Thou wilt bless us in this meeting tonight, that we will be able to discuss issues in a cordial and reasonable fashion and be able to come to wise decisions that will continue to bless our community. We thank Thee for the freedom to gather and meet together, and ask that Thou will help us to go forward from this meeting even more determined to make this community a great place to raise children and a great place to live. We thank Thee again for all these blessings. In the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. If everyone could please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Roberts, and thank you, Karen, for that beautiful prayer, and also acknowledge back former legislature as well. So we're honored to have her in our city. Okay, Council, before us we do have one set of minutes that needs to be approved. So if you have any corrections, please make it known. Otherwise, I'd look for a motion to approve as written.
Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt the minutes from the Layton City Council work meeting February 20th, 2025.
Okay. I second. Okay, it's been moved and second that we adopt the minutes as written. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to our municipal announcements or events. We have council members that are on different boards and affiliated with different entities throughout the city, so I'd look for you to go ahead and make those announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. Coming up next month, big activities going on in Layton. Always a good time to celebrate Independence Day, and a couple dates I wanted to mention specifically. First of all the activities that happen on the 4th of July and previously will be listed on our website at laytoncity.org. Go to the Parks and Rec and look for the Liberty Days tab. Specifically, the Sunday before the 4th, June 29th, annual tradition, we will have our Voices of Liberty patriotic concert, and this is also where we present our hometown heroes for the year. So always a great way to kick off Independence Day celebrations. Invite everyone here at 7 p.m. on Sunday, June 29th. Additionally, want to highlight one item. Two things, I guess. We have a great parade, and the Parks Department, Recreation Department have extended the application period for floats. We'd love to have more floats in our great parade. Contact the Parks and Recreation Department to apply there. And as well, kicking off the 4th of July early at 6:30 a.m., our city's Rotarians will be there cooking breakfast, 6:30 to, do we have an end time?
Right before the parade.
Till the food's gone?
Till the food's gone, but usually about 9:30, quarter to 10.
So come to the fun run, come get breakfast afterwards. But $5 a person, French toast, hash browns, sorry.
Correction, I think it's 7 due to the increase of food
Is it
costs.
$7? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, Mayor. But yeah, come get breakfast, bring the family, support what our Rotarians do for the community. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And just as a personal note, as a Rotarian, that this is their major fundraiser for the year, and all those proceeds end up going back into the community one way or another, whether it be through scholarships or assisting with like the Teen Living Center, food banks, a little bit of everything. So it's a good way to just kind of help support your community. Did you want to mention the Father's Day swim? We have the Father's Day program for the swim. I know that's...
We do, Mayor. Let me see if I can find the date for you.
Okay, well, you're looking...
June 14th. That's cool.
Yeah, I know that that's a special swim with your fathers, and is it a reduced rate?
It is.
Yeah, a reduced rate, yeah. So that's kind of a good deal, too.
That
Okay.
sounds like an announcement. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
Sure, if you want, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
This is a interesting time of year. In fact, it kind of comes, and I hear people ask me questions. They're like, "Wait, I didn't know that was even happening," and so I just thought I'd just announce it. We do have an open filing for candidacy if you wanted to run for the city council or run for mayor. It ends tomorrow at 5 p.m. But this is a community that I think all of us at one time, obviously, we decided we wanted to file and run for an office, and we're up here now. And so we just want to make sure everyone who has the inkling that they wanted to try to serve in an elected capacity, that this is the time for you to seek that election until tomorrow at 5 p.m. So I just wanted to make sure that was noted on the broadcast and for those in the audience.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
I just wanted to remind the residents that the Friday films have started, that Davis Arts Council does, and so every Friday you can come watch a free film at 7 p.m. over in the amphitheater, and then Layton Fest starts the week after 4th of July.
Yep, the Friday after.
Friday after, so lots of fun stuff for the summer.
And this coming Monday is the kickoff season for the Davis Arts Council's concerts. What is it? The band is Casey and the Sunshine Band, which is pretty dated for some of us, but we look forward to it. Councilman Thomas?
if you're old, you might know who they are. If you're young, don't worry about it. They also have a Sunday concert.
Yes.
But it's not so much a concert as much as it's a birthday for the amphitheater. It's 30 years old. And they'll have some dignitaries like a mayor or somebody speaking there. So you may want to come out and hear her speak.
Or your favorite local band?
Or your favorite local band. Yeah, right.
All right. Well, thank you. Does anybody else have any announcements? Okay, seeing that there's none, let's go ahead and go on then to our citizens comments portion of our meeting. This is a time when anyone in the audience would wish to address this governing body on an item that's not within our public hearing, then we welcome you to go ahead and make your comment. I believe we do have one gentleman in the audience that definitely I think a lot of folks would be interested in hearing from. So I hope he does get up and make his statement as well. But in the meantime, the time is now yours. And go ahead. Yeah. Oh, please state your name and...
I remember.
Okay.
Kelly Graythorne. I live at 1107 North, 2125 East. And it was approximately 2 years ago, me and the other 17 members of our HOA on 2125 East came down here on Moss. We even had a diagram on your chalkboard showing the very dangerous and nasty intersection at 2125 East in Gordon. And person after person got up here and explained how horrible it is. It's a blind corner. When you're going south, you come up to the stop sign, you look left, you can't see very far. It's a curve. There's that big wall there. And then you look right, and it's the top of the hill. You're blind both directions. You are literally blind. And so most of the people have quit even going that way. They just give up. They go to the stop sign to the north and either go down to Emerald or then roundabout if they're trying to get to 89, which is what we usually do. My wife and I go to 89 a lot, going to McKay-D, and if you want to go to Station Park or anything, you want to go to 89. But I don't like the idea that I should have to go through a mouse maze to try to avoid a dangerous intersection. Since I was here last time, you put in a traffic light at Gordon and Emerald. I've never understood why there was even a three-way stop at Emerald. There's not that much traffic. I'll guarantee you they don't have near the traffic we do on 2125 East, not near as much. And yet we don't have a roundabout. We pleaded for a roundabout. I know that you've told us, we've talked about a traffic light down the years and everything. Well, meanwhile, life goes on. I was just under 73 when we started this discussion. Now I'm 75, and before a few months go by, I'll be 76. Life goes on. I would like to enjoy a safe intersection. And I think we deserve it. Mark, who lives on the corner of that, he says, every day I hear horns, screaming. It was about 2.5 weeks ago. My wife and I went there, and I looked right. There was nothing over the hill. I looked left, and there was nothing coming. And one last turn, because they'll come up over in the top in the middle lane, because if they're going to turn left south on 2125, they're already there when they come up. So anyway, I look, and anyway, there's nothing coming. I look, there's nothing. I pull out around the bend, comes a pickup, just flying. And I hit the gas. I'm glad I didn't have a car that stuttered or anything, because all he did was honk his horn, and I heard yelling as he went by. Mm-hmm. And my wife was terrorized. And she tells me now, let's not go that way anymore, Kelly. Let's just go like the others do and go around. Why don't we deserve a roundabout? Even on Antelope, you have 2 roundabouts before they even arrived at the traffic light on Fairfield. Descending from 89 to Fairfield, they have 2 roundabouts. We don't have one. You have a traffic light where you don't need it. On Emerald, fine, leave it there. It never turns red, because people don't, if they come up there, the only one it will turn on, no, I guess that means my time's up. Okay. Last time I was here, the time before, I asked what is being done, and I was told we're working on it. Could you tell me what you've come up with? You're working on it? What's been the result of that working on it? Or has it just fallen away from your memory because you don't have to deal with it?
Okay, thank you.
Next time, we're working on it. I'd like to hear why we can't get a roundabout.
Okay, I failed to mention one thing, that typically in our public comment portion, we do not get in a debate or a dialogue back and forth, but certainly if you wouldn't mind leaving your number, with either Kim or our attorney over there, then I will have the staff get back to you on what we're doing. Obviously, they did take action by putting the light in up above, which is for anticipated growth, and that light was to kind of help with the traffic. Okay, is there anyone else?
Greetings. My name is Paul Hubenthal, 1443 North, 2425 West in Layton.
Thank you.
And I'm here with good news. I'm excited to announce, and I've been in contact with Councilwoman Smith Edmondson about the Davis County, or rather the Davis shooting range up above Kaysville on East Bench is opening. We have a date, and after much planning, anticipation, and preparation, it's been completely refurbished. We're putting on the final touches now, fresh coat of paint, and it's going to be a brand new, renovated, exciting new venue for the citizens of Layton and the community to go up there and practice safe shooting sports within the community once again. So we're getting our staff trained. Again, if you haven't been there for a while, if you've been there recently, you'll be surprised to notice the dramatic difference that it's taken. Now on the 28th of June, which is a Saturday from 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock, we're going to have a grand opening event. It'll be free to the public. We're going to have some demonstrations. Some of the clubs that actively participate in the events up there are going to basically show off their wares. The cowboy actions are going to be up there in their traditional attire.
Oh, fun.
If people want to bring their wares as well, their equipment, the public bay will be open for free to the public for shooting activities. We're also going to have some of that. We're going to have some of the other venues, some local businesses in the area to try and beef up the festive atmosphere to make it a grand event. And we've invited the council here to attend as well. We're going to have as many dignitaries. Representative Carrie Ann Lisenby was supposed to attend, but she's going to be out of town. We're going to have Representative, I forget her names, Layton resident, Representative, excuse me. I won't stall my time trying to remember
That's
names
fine.
right now. But they're going to be up there. There's going to be a lot of people up there. They're going to have ribbon cutting. The Davis County Council will be there as well. Our commissioners will be there as well. So please come on out, enjoy the festivities, shoot for free, and get to know the new range. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. That was the gentleman that I was hoping would get up and announce. The range is back open, will be back open, so thank you.
28th on Saturday. 28th.
Yep, Saturday the 28th.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any other citizens that wish to address this governing body? Okay, seeing that there's none, I'll go ahead and go on to our consent items tonight. We do have a few items here. So tonight we're going to start out with item A, which is going to be a report on our ramp tax initiative. So with that, I'll turn the time over to our director of our Parks and Recreation, Mr. Dave Price, and then I believe Kimberly will be joining him as well.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing Resolution 2537. If approved, If approved, this resolution will authorize the placement of an opinion question on the November 4th, 2025 ballot to authorize the continued imposition of a 0.1% sales and use tax to fund the City of Layton's Recreation, Arts, Museums, and Parks improvements, facilities, and organizations. In 2015, Layton City voters approved a local sales and use tax to support Recreation, Arts, Museum, and Parks, or RAMP, initiative. For the last 10 years, this RAMP tax has provided 0.1% sales and use tax to support recreation, arts, parks, and museums. This 1 penny on each $10 sold in Layton has provided over $16 million in revenue used solely to improve recreation, arts, museum, and parks for the benefit of our residents. This 10-year authorization is set to expire. In accordance with Utah Code, the city would like to submit an opinion question to the voters to authorize the continuation of this local sales and use tax of 0.1%. This voter approval or reauthorization will not raise our residents' tax rates. On March 6th of 2025, Layton City passed the Resolution 2509 notifying Davis County Commission of Layton City's intent to submit an opinion question to the Layton City residents regarding a ramp tax. On March 27th of 2025, Davis County Commission unanimously adopted Resolution 2025-371, declaring its intent not to impose a tax under Title 59, Chapter 12, Part 7, county option funded for botanical, cultural, and recreation or zoological organizations or facilities. Layton City's mayor and city council support the placement of an opinion question on the ballot, giving the opportunity for both sides of the question to express their opinion. Layton City's mayor and city council are resolved to comply with all state laws and requirements regarding placement of an opinion question for a ramp tax on the ballot. Staff recommends the council adopt Resolution 2537, authorizing the placement of a ramp tax opinion question on the November 2025 ballot, giving an opportunity for both sides of the question to express their opinion. And Layton City's mayor and city council are resolved to comply with all state laws and requirements regarding the placement of the opinion question for the ramp tax. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening, Kimberly, our Assistant Parks and Recreation Director, will present how that money has been spent over the last 10 years. So, any questions about the resolution itself?
Council? No?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for having us again here tonight. We're excited to share how RAMP has helped shape Layton through our parks and by bringing more recreation, arts, and heritage to our community. Tonight, we'll be sharing the overview of the last 10 years, 2016 to 2025, a decade of progress made possible through RAMP. So here's a quick overview of the allocated funding we've had each year since 2016. We'll be breaking this down further in upcoming slides, but we want to show you this overview first. So in the past 10 years, we've allocated over $16 million to 277 grants. You'll notice that funding levels can vary from year to year, which is dependent upon the amount of sales tax collected in Layton and on the number of grants and requested funding each year. So this slide breaks down everything by the category, showing how much total funding was awarded to each area of the recreation, arts, museum, and parks over the last 10 years. I'd like to note that rather than sorting by organization, we categorized each grant based on the project's purpose and how it would be used. For example, while Parks applied for a grant to install a sculpture in Commons Park, what we know as our beloved ducks, because it's a piece of public art, that funding is categorized under arts, not parks. So parks received the largest share of funding overall, which is not surprising when you consider the cost of building public spaces like trails, playgrounds, courts, and other park amenities. These investments are high impact and highly visible. You'll also see a strong support for arts and recreation, which speaks to the community values, that the community values creativity, connection, and opportunities to play. And finally, our museum category reflects how RAMP helps preserve and share Layton's history through exhibits and events. The year-by-year graph gives a quick visual of how category funding levels shifted over time. You'll notice an ebb and flow in larger investments in different categories, which allows RAMP funds to respond to both immediate needs and long-term goals. Now we'll take the information and we'll show it in the terms of the number of grants awarded in each category. One of the takeaways here is just how broad and accessible the arts programs have been. With 113 grants, it shows that even small-scale organizations and projects have been able to benefit from RAMP. On the other hand, parks facilities tend to receive fewer but much larger grants due to the size and cost of those capital projects. They may come with a higher price tag, but they serve tens of thousands of people each year and last for decades. Together, this balance shows that RAMP isn't just about big builds or one-time events. It's about investing across the broad to serve all of the corners of our community. So ramp funding can be spent on city-owned facilities, either new facilities or improvements on existing city-owned facilities and programs. And this shows that breakdown. As you can see, a significant portion of funding has gone to facilities, particularly in parks, which are those long-term assets that benefit the public every single day. But programs have not been overlooked. As we just discussed, arts programs alone received over 100 grants, which is more than any other category, and that helps bring live music, theater, and films to Layton. So while facilities give us the physical spaces to gather, programs are what fill those spaces with energy and connection, and ramp funding helps us do both. So we've looked at the numbers, how ramp funds were distributed, what categories they supported, and how those investments were balanced between facilities and programs. But sometimes the best way to understand the impact is to see it. These next few slides are visual highlights of the last 10 years. Each collage represents a different ramp category and showcases some of the incredible projects that have come to life throughout Layton. Whether it's a community concert, a new trail, a new museum exhibit, or public art, each exhibit or each image is a reflection of what ramp makes possible. These are the places we enjoy, the moments we share, and the memories we create, thanks to the community-supported funding. And the upcoming images that you'll see is not an exhaustive list of everything that we've accomplished over the last 10 years. It's just some highlights. A full list can be found on our website, on Layton City's website, under the Recreation tab. There'll be a ramp there. So these are our recreation facilities. We've had 32 grants, about $3.4 million that we've been able to invest into our ball fields, Shoreline Gymnasium with their track, and exercise equipment, and our surf and swim. We've gotten new pool lanes, furniture, a lobby revamp, and new scoreboards, our ball fields. It's been great with our facilities. With our programs, we've been able to see investments in our football programs, more of our baseball and softball programs, our aquatics programs. We've been able to do some really fun events like Layton Fest, Pioneer Day and the Electric Light Parade, as well as have some safety equipment for our pool and do a sportsmanship campaign. Arts facilities, we've been able to expand and enhance the Ed Canley Amphitheater. We now have 2 great plaza areas. We have a great LED screen and new equipment to support the different arts that are brought to our amphitheater. We also have those awesome duck sculptures we were talking about earlier, and invested in our arts program as well. The arts programs, they have been so many. It's great. We have a lot of community theater. We have orchestra, lots of live music. We have our, the Sunday night concerts, the active pages, movie nights, student art competitions. So many things happen. The museum, we've been able to build the Vietnam Memorial Wall replica, as well as have different memorials in Commons Park. We've been able to have some great exhibits, some permanent exhibits in our museum, as well as some new display shelves, and really invest in the centennial that we had a few years back. And our parks facilities. We have investments, everything from our Christmas programs to pedestrian lighting to keep our parks safe, to more trees, pavilions, pickleball courts and complexes, shade structures with our splash pad, and a whole bunch of playgrounds. And our beautiful new pavilion as well. So as we wrap up, I just want to say that this past decade of RAMP has been more than just numbers and projects. It's been about building a better Layton together. These successes are only possible because of the support of our City Council, our wonderful arts organizations, and the residents who voted to invest in our community. On behalf of everyone who's benefited from a trail, concert, playground, art piece, or program, we thank RAMP. Are there any questions?
Okay. Council, do you have any questions on this? I mean, that was a great overview. We really appreciate it, and understanding, the history of the ramp and everything that we benefit from it, especially knowing it's only 0.1%, mostly spent by folks outside of our city who have come here to shop in our stores. And keep in mind, this does not include grocery. So, Council?
Yeah, I just had a few, and it was to the resolution. Are you okay with that? Or is that more Dave's?
I will do my
Okay.
best.
So we had this on the ballot 10 years ago. It passed with 63%, and that was with no history behind it. No, it was just a hope. Yeah, and so the residents put a lot of faith into the RAMP program that they'd be willing to allow for tax authorization. And I guess my first question is maybe to you, Clint. On the language that we have for the ballot, it just talks about RAMP tax authorization election, and I didn't know if there was any benefit to saying reauthorization. I know members of the community, and myself, sometimes if I see something on the ballot that says, here's a new tax, my first instinct is, nope, not a new tax, not interested in that, find no other way to fund it. And so I didn't know if it would be beneficial to have a discussion about whether maybe reauthorization is better language since it's being reauthorized. And I didn't know if that language was required from the state or if it's something that Dave just decided and wanted to use the same language that we did beforehand. So that's my first question.
We did look at that and talked about it as a group, as an organization, as well as with some of the people in the community. One of the things that we did hear from the community is there was a little tension or nervousness that a reauthorization often comes with some baggage, that people feel that, or they vote against a reauthorization just because it is a continuation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried to, we decided just to keep it as simple as possible. But again, we certainly would be willing to look at any options.
Fair enough. And then, great presentation. Thank you again. I saw on our requirements as a city is that we schedule a public meeting at least 4, but not more than 45 days prior to the election, where arguments for and against the imposition of RAMP can be presented and where interested parties may be heard. So I'm guessing that's going to be here, and I'm hoping that the staff will come back and make the same presentation so that we can make sure that when people actually are going to get their ballots, that they can see it's not just a hope anymore. We can show all the projects and all the benefits that the city has had on that. So I just wanted to call it out. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you. And along with the public hearing in September, we will also make a call to the public and allow them to present arguments for and against. And so they'll have ample opportunities to speak their mind.
Okay.
Questions? That's a good question. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. So, Dave, maybe explain the role of the city. The city you can't campaign for or against city employees, or can you explain that to us? You have to remain neutral?
Yeah, city staff, we're there to provide information. And so this historical information is perfectly within our preview or to be able to present that. We are not to campaign or to be actively involved in that. We do have an active RAMP pick committee that has been set up with the mayor's help and authorization, and they are actively working to get the good news out or to get the information about how well RAMP helps this city. And so that will be their main job. As staff members, we will step back and provide information if we can. Council members and mayors, they can state their opinion as openly and freely as you guys wish to. So.
Okay. Councilman Roberts?
With that being said, can I take this opportunity to speak openly and freely? Is that okay? Just a story. In my first year as council, a resident reached out to me and asked what the city was doing to prevent crime and say vandalism, different things. And I gave a good political answer, I feel like, politician's answer at the time, supporting our police, But the more I've served here, the more I've seen this is what we do, is we build a community. We create spaces where people can be entertained, can recreate, and families can get together and do this. So, Kimberly, this is a great presentation. I appreciate it. And Thank you. I think it's a great program.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor, may I just add?
Absolutely.
I just want to say also thank you for putting the presentation together. I know I speak for myself and my family that we enjoy and utilize, a lot of what RAMP has provided, as does the rest of the city. But I especially thank you for putting this together visually, because then this does help us as elected officials to be able to support as openly and freely as we might want to. But this just helps to boost our ability to let people know what the RAMP tax has done. And just like Councilmember Bloxham, nobody likes to hear the word tax, unless you're getting a return maybe. But this is a return. So like what RAMP has provided, what we've been able to fund, the services that are provided, the programs, all of the things, this is the return on that really tiny itty-bitty tax. And I call it a tiny itty-bitty tax because that's what it is for us individually. But when we put all that together, then we're able to do all of this. And that's just really cool. So thanks for putting that together.
I'll just reemphasize also that all the money that is collected, that it has to go through one, it can only be spent on one of these 4 entities. So even though it might be managed on the city level, we do have a committee, a RAMP commission. Councilman Morris right now is our liaison, but you do have a specialist for each one of those entities. So there's 4 of them, and then there's 5 other commission members that are at large, and they're representatives of the city, they're citizens of the city, and they are the ones that really vet out all of the applications and make sure they meet the requirements, and then go through the process of presenting it to the council as their suggestion for how the funding should be spent. So I have to say thank you to all those folks that have spent time on that commission, as well as our residents for allowing this to take place. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to item B of our consent items, which is a bid award, and Mr. Steve Jackson is going to present that item to us.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, for allowing me tonight to present for your consideration Resolution 2538. It's a bid award with Ormond Construction for the Laytona Storm Drain Project number 2211. The resolution authorizes the execution of agreement between Layton City and Ormond Construction for the Laytona Storm Drain Project. It includes the construction of new 12-inch to 48-inch reinforced concrete pipe storm drain with installation of inlet boxes, removal of waterways, and then also updating the ADA ramps throughout the area of the construction and other incidental work associated with the project. 3 bids were received, with Ormond Construction submitting the lowest responsive bid in the amount of $1,598,817.27. The engineer's estimate was $1,575,918.50. Staff recommends the council adopt Resolution 2538 and award the bid to Ormond Construction and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement for the Laytona Storm Drain Project 2211. I will note it's in the location between 1050 North and 1200 North, and then Angel Street is on the right side of your screen, and 1640 West is about where the tracks are. Are there any questions I can answer for you? The red lines are indicating where the storm drain generally will be going in the streets.
Are they adding collection boxes?
Yes, there's really no storm drain in this area, so this whole project is
that's
to
what
fix.
I mean. There's like one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All of those are just where the pipes are going, but there will be numerous storm drain boxes along that street. Yeah.
Good.
Is there curb and gutter in all of this area? Is there some without?
No, it's all curb and gutter.
Okay, I thought there wasn't.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and move on to item C, which Mr. Jackson is going to also present that item for us.
For your consideration is Resolution 2539, which is the approval of a land purchase agreement between Layton City Avocet Management Company, Brentwood Homes, and Halo Management for property purchase for the future expansion of the Public Works Maintenance Facility, approximately 175 East, 1800 North. From the picture you can see on the screen there, the blue property highlighted is the current Public Works Facility property, 10.15 acres. The yellow property highlighted is 7.41 acres. We've been working with the property owners of this parcel to negotiate the purchase of this ground for close to 2 years now. The resolution would authorize the city to purchase this ground and use it for the necessary expansion of the Public Works facility in the future as we master plan for the remaining growth in the city. The purchase price is $3,873,360, and staff recommends the council adopt Resolution 2539, approving the land purchase agreement and authorizing the mayor to sign the necessary documents for this purchase. Are there any questions I can answer for the council or mayor on this one?
Okay, council, do you have any questions on this? I know we had a pretty good discussion in the work meeting, but if you have anything more you'd like to bring up, you're welcome to. Okay. Seeing that there's none, thank you, Mr. Jackson, for presenting those two items to us. We'll now go on to our last consent item, which is item D, which is an acceptance of a petition for an annexation, and Brad McElrath is going to present those items to us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you is a Resolution 2513, which is an annexation request for a property located at approximately 940 North East Side Drive. I'll just show you where that's located here in the city. You can see it's up on the east side of the city, just east of East Side Drive. You have the Craythorne gravel pit area that's just located to the east there. You have Holmes Reservoir that's located to the west, and also Highway 89. You can see the subject area that is being proposed, or the request for the annexation that it includes, and also the zoning that is surrounding this. The zoning that you see to the north is R110, to the west and also to the south you've got RS, which is residential suburban, and then a residential suburban planned residential unit development. And then you have some more single-family zoning that's also on the west side of this. The purpose of the annexation petition is to begin the process of rezoning the property to the residential subdivision zone for future development. Right now, the city staff, especially our engineering staff, is analyzing this area. It is on in a sensitive lands area of the city, as well as along the fault line area. So for us, it is important to analyze this to see if it is something that we need to or should annex into the city and would be able to provide services to. There is a more expedited process nowadays for annexations than before. And so we will, as city staff, provide information as quickly as we can about that and how much information we can gather. But right now, this request and this resolution is just to accept the petition for annexation, and then there will be certification and then the actual decision on the annexation in the coming months. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Council, any questions?
All right, thank you.
Okay, seeing that there's none, that concludes our consent items. So I'll bring it back to the council to go ahead and take action on this. Just keep in mind that the council can take a singular action in adopting all of the resolutions that were presented tonight, and also with one vote. So with that, council, I'll bring it back to you for action.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 25-37, Resolution 25-38, Resolution 25-39, and Resolution 25-13.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we adopt the resolutions as presented tonight under our consent items. So with that, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. That concludes our consent items for tonight. We'll now move on to our public hearing portion of our meeting. And we do have 4 items here tonight. We'll go ahead and start out with item number A. And Mr. Probert, our finance director, will be presenting item A, which is regarding our budget.
Mayor, members of the council, we have a public hearing tonight. On May 1st, the council adopted the tentative budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 and set a public hearing for this evening. I'll mention right here at the front that it's not my intention to recommend that we vote on that budget tonight. I will recommend that we continue this hearing until the 19th of June. But it is an opportunity tonight for the public, once you open a public hearing, to comment on the budget that's been available for them to review for the last just over a month. A few highlights from the 2025-2026 budget. There is not a property tax increase proposed in this budget, although we don't have the final property tax rate as of yet. We will have that by the 19th. The general fund budget is just over almost $49 million. The total citywide budget, including utility funds, $129 million. There is a market cost of living and merit adjustment proposed for officers and employees in the city, and we'll discuss that in a subsequent public hearing that we have here in a minute. $2.9 million in capital equipment, $23.6 million in capital projects, which also includes utility projects. The sewer rate is proposed to be increased $2.50 per month by North Davis Sewer District, which that comes to us and then we pass it to them. And then as per a plan that was approved last year, the city will also increase our portion of the sewer rate, $2.64. So that will be a total of $5.14 in increase in the sanitary sewer rate proposed in this budget. Major projects include Emergency Communication Dispatch Center, which is highly subsidized by federal grant money that needs to be spent in the next little while. Swimming pool, dome, park projects, street maintenance, and other utility projects. Some of the things that I'm required to cover tonight before the public hearing are changes to the tentative budget that was adopted on May 1st. One of those changes is an increase in general fund wages for the fire department. Upon doing some further research and discussion with the fire chiefs, it was determined that we needed to increase that budget, mostly related to a large group of employees that were hired approximately 3 years ago to man Station 54 when it was originally opened. We hired 18 new personnel at that time, and those people have all now progressed in the promotion cycle. Another additional changes, we're moving funding for emergency management from the Management Services Department to the Fire Department. We only moved a portion of that money based on what they felt like they needed. Also an increase in election costs due to a new state law that requires the county to do a significant amount of work that they estimate will cost around $15,000. That could be split between other cities, but at this point I determined that we should just put the full amount in, and that way we'll have enough to cover the cost. As per discussions a few weeks ago, it was determined that we should move the pool dome project, which is $1.1 million, from the general fund to the ramp fund. And so the ramp fund will cover the cost of that project in this proposed budget. All of those items combined reduce our use of fund balance in the general fund by $945,000. In other funds, the rate increases, which I just discussed in the sewer fund, will generate just under $1.8 million. That's the combined rate of North Davis Sewer District and the city. Will pass approximately $975,000 of that through to North Davis Sewer District. In addition, it's proposed $124,000 increase for overtime and promotions in the Emergency Medical Fund for the same reason that I described in the Fire Fund, mostly related to those personnel that are manning Station 54. Since the tentative budget, we also received the final plan for the CDBG grant, so I've increased that $16,000, added the dome project to the ramp fund. We moved the wave machine project from the 2026 budget to the current year budget. That's $220,800, so that equipment can be ordered. I believe it already has been ordered and or shortly after, or very soon, I should say. And so that also affected the pool budget for 2026 and increased 2025. So those are the changes that are out there. For the public's purposes, just a few highlight slides. City revenue for 2026. We can see that 25.8% of total city revenue comes from sales tax, 42% from charges for services. This is the city in total, not just the general fund. City expenditures, 44% for compensation, 30% for operations, 20% for capital projects, and a couple other smaller categories. In the general fund, 53.8% of the general fund revenue comes from sales tax, 22% from property tax, and then there's a number of other taxes and fees that are allowed to be charged by the city that make up the balance of that revenue. In the general fund for 2026, 35% for police, 13% for fire. Fire's a little lower because the emergency medical fund is an enterprise fund, so it's not part of the general fund. And then you can see the other departments listed there as well. And that's my brief presentation before our public hearing, and I would recommend that we open the public hearing to accept public comment. Are there any questions?
Okay, Council, do you have any questions first before we open the public hearing?
Yeah, I mind. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Tracy. So that a little over 300,000 for Station 54. Is it fair to say that the overtime is a one-time change to the budget, and then the promotions are continuing because they're going to be receiving those same figures for the foreseeable future?
Right.
Do you know the
overtime is about 90,000 of that. It was 50,000 in the general fund was an estimated increase that we need. When we prepared that overtime budget over the last few years, the general fund didn't ever get a cost of living adjustment, save for probably the last 5 years, I believe. And so that 50,000 is to help catch that up. Wages have increased significantly on an hourly rate, but the overtime that's in the budget had not been increased.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. You're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing?
I have a comment, and then I'll open up the public hearing. That's okay.
Sure.
I don't know if you don't have to stay there, Tracy. I was just going to comment on that, the money that was moved from the general fund to the ramp for the pool dome, and just, again, thankful for the oversight that our staff uses when looking at the funding and the monies that are available that allows us to be able to move things around as needed. And so there was that money in the ramp fund that we were able to move out of the general fund to be able to use that for the pool dome. And that just means that leaves additional funding in the general fund if something else comes up or if there's some other project that needs to be funded. So appreciate your department for providing that information to us so we can help make good decisions for the city. Thanks, Tracy. With that, I'll open the public hearing to discuss the adoption of the fiscal year budget and property tax rate for 2025-2026.
Okay. It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the public hearing is now open on item number A, our budget for the 2025-2026. If anyone wishes to comment on that, you're more than welcome to step up to the podium here, and once again, make sure you state your name. Okay, seeing that there's none, I'll go ahead and move on to item number B. We will keep that public hearing open for the time being. So let's move on to item number B, which is an adjustment to the annual compensation of the executive municipal officers. And Tracy gets to present that item as well.
On that last item, Mayor, you may have to indicate that the public hearing is open and that it remains open until June 19th.
Right.
So to a specific date.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. So there was a new law passed to the state legislature requiring that municipalities hold a separate public hearing related to increases in municipal executive compensation. And the list of those that needed to be included, first off, I would state that our executive compensation, which makes up this list of individuals here, from city manager to city treasurer, all of those individuals, the increases are determined in the same manner that they're determined for all city employees. And so there aren't any exceptions. And so there's a market analysis on each position in the city every year. And then it's determined if a cost of living adjustment is needed. And then merit adjustments, since I've been here, have always been part of the increase. And merit adjustments are based on performance. At this time, we're still in the middle of the process of completing the performance evaluations. And so my number on the board here, on the screen here for merit increase, is what we'd anticipate for these positions. The maximum merit increase that any of these positions could receive would be 5%. In the time that I've been here, 13 years, none of these positions have received a 5% increase, and that's just based on scores. Not that we don't have excellent and fabulous people, but that's the way the merit system is designed. And so for the purpose of this public hearing, we can see that cost of living increases for all of these executive positions are proposed to be 1.5% as presented in the budget, and merit increases will average what I would anticipate being 3% across all of these positions. Are there any questions related to that?
Okay. Any questions?
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Tracy's the numbers here, they aren't part of the law that was passed. These are our numbers, correct?
These are our numbers.
Yeah.
Yes. The 1.5 and the 3%, that's what we've determined to present to you as a council to be part of our budget.
It wasn't part of the bill that was passed for this public hearing.
Right. So with that, I would just recommend, if there aren't questions, that you open a public hearing related to this matter.
Mayor, I have one question.
Absolutely.
So you did mention that the way that these are determined, these figures are determined, is the same way that's done with all of the other city employees. My question is that cost of living, the 1.5, is that the same as well that you've done for all of the other city employees?
Yes.
And then the merit increase is just based on whatever the performance is. And so although these are set aside, the numbers that are here are basically the same percentage-wise for what we see across the rest of the city employees.
Yes.
Okay.
And on average, over the last several years, 3%, or if we've determined, there have been years when it was more than 3%. I think we did 4 or 5 in the inflationary years a couple of years ago, but it's always been the same for all of the employees.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Mayor, I make a motion we open the public hearing to hear about item B.
Okay. Second? Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the time's now to hear from our residents if they have any opinion here on item number B on our agenda.
Hi, my name is Daniela Harding. I live at 1506 East, 2050 North. I just have a quick question regarding the merit increase that perhaps Tracy could explain to the residents. When you're looking at increasing a compensation merit-wise, I think what's confusing, at least to me as a resident, what is the process? What do you determine? Is there a group that interviews the employee? And so I'm just trying to understand who determines how they get compensation or they get that merit increase.
Okay, great, yes. And so the performance evaluations are done annually on employees by their supervisors. They're reviewed by managers, then they're reviewed by the department director and our human resource department and the city manager. So from an employee getting their performance evaluation all the way to the city manager, they're reviewed several times. And what we have in place is a system where if someone does something outstanding during the year, right, they can get a document in their personnel folder. Managers or supervisors will keep track of those, and then they can take that information into account when they review the individual at the end of the year. They discuss that with them, obviously, during the year. That also goes for things where you've got disciplinary action, right? So you've done something where you've violated some aspect of our personnel code, and so then you get a letter in your file related to that, and that's taken into account. So then employees are scored across various categories, and they can get from a 1 to a 5, with 3 being considered you're a great employee, right? So in order to get a 4 or a 5, which is the reason I mentioned that most people would not get a 5% increase in this scenario, in order to get above that, the supervisor has to take those extra, attaboy documentations and give examples, and then HR will review those and make sure that adequate examples have been given in order to justify something more than a 3. And anyway, it's a whole process, and we have an electronic system that we track it all in, and it's all reviewed again by the city manager at the highest level to make sure that one department isn't just skewing things because they they think their people are better than another. We try to make sure that everybody's being treated uniformly.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, it sounds like you're going through multiple levels. It's not one particular person determining the merit increase for a particular employee.
Right.
It goes through multiple levels.
Right.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Tracy, I have a question. On the merit increase, you mentioned that it goes from 1 to 5. Are there instances where that merit increase is 0 and an employee would not get a merit increase? Is that ever an instance?
Yes, I believe that has happened, and I think in maybe a severe case of disciplinary action that could happen. Most of the time, I would dare say that if you're an employee that had an evaluation score that was that poor, you've probably already been talked to, and you may not be here anymore, right? I mean, we try to only keep top-notch people, and at the point where you actually receive a 2, meaning a 3 is you're doing your job. You're a great employee, right? You're doing what's expected of you. If your score fell to a 2, you would be having meetings with your department director, possibly human resources, to see what kind of a plan can we get in place for you to help improve you as an employee. I mean, Layton City's not in the business of just bringing people in, putting thousands of dollars of training into these individuals, and then saying, well, you blew it, we're not going to give you a chance. Unless you violated, some really bad things, broke the law, basically, then yeah, you're dismissed. But if there's just some minor things of personality or just the way you do things that could be changed or some training that could be provided, then we try and work with all the employees to, raise everybody up to a better level, make them a better overall, hopefully help them be a better overall person. Anyway, I'm talking too much now. Sorry. Yeah.
Just quickly, Madam Mayor, can you, Tracy, just speak very briefly about the salary survey and that we utilize, outside information to make sure that we're paying our people maybe not what they're worth, but what the rate is, and make sure we're not underpaying and make sure we're not overpaying and that taxpayer funds are being spent wisely?
Right. So the Human Resource Department will go out every year, and we have 8 cities that compare with us. We don't try and compare against, say, Salt Lake City or, Brigham City, people that aren't anywhere near our size. But, we'll look at Ogden and Sandy and West Valley and West Jordan and South Jordan, some sizable cities and people that we compete with for employees. And so then we'll take the entire list of job descriptions and just make sure that we're within a certain range of those same job positions. We don't try and beat everyone, and Alex may remember where we try and land in that. I don't remember for sure, but we don't try and be the highest paid city, employees in the state, but we want to be competitive so that we aren't continually, like I said, putting thousands of dollars of training, especially in your public safety personnel. But, I point them out, but it's anybody, right? I mean, all of the employees, it takes a long time to get someone up to speed. And so, we want to be competitive so that they aren't just getting the training and jumping ship. But that's the purpose of the market survey.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, are there any other questions from our audience? Okay, seeing that there's none, I'm going to ask for some advice here from our attorney. Do you think, knowing that we're going to leave item A open, should we deal with each one of these individually?
That might be the most clear way to do it.
Yeah, I think so tonight. So, okay, so what I'll do is go ahead and bring item B back to the council, which they can take action on this. They can also close the public hearing for that particular item before you take action. So, council, let's deal with item B at this time. Well, so we could just close the public hearing on item B is what we'd do.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to item C then, which Brad's will be presenting this item regarding a rezone request.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thanks for your patience as I got that ready for you. As you stated, Mayor, this is a request for a rezone. It's located at approximately 1313 North, 2625 East. Most people who are aware of this will identify this as the Gordon and Highway 89 Town Center area. So I'll just kind of go over some of the information about this. This is just the general area in which it is located in the city. You can see here on the overall map. And then want to point out some of the zoning that's at this location as well. You have the properties that are located, mostly this larger piece of property is zoned as A, agriculture. The subject properties are located here to the north, which is located in the CP1 zone, which is a planned neighborhood commercial zone, and then also the RS, which is a residential suburban zone. The city is proposing to rezone these subject properties here to the agriculture zone in order to line up with the rest of the zoning for the town center area. To give some background, these properties were all purchased by the Utah Department of Transportation as part of the reconstruction of Highway 89 and was used as a staging area during that time. Now that that project is complete, UDOT is at the point where they need to sell these properties they no longer have the purpose for them. And so this is a preparatory and an intermediate step between UDOT selling these properties and Layton City establishing a zone for the town center area. So this, you can just see the aerial image and a little bit more detail of the site. So here's just a general overview for the public. Layton City adopted the Layton Forward General Plan in 2019, which identifies this specific area as a town center. There's a total of 6 town centers that are identified in our general plan, 2 of which are identified as greenfield town centers. Otherwise, areas where there is not any existing development, and so everything that would be happening there is brand new development. And so Gordon and Avenue and Highway 89, that's one of the 2 greenfield town centers. In 2024, the City Council adopted the Town Center Master Plan for this town center. That went through a very robust public outreach process to come up with a shared community vision for this town center to make sure we're meeting the needs of this part of the community, but also the community overall. And as I stated, this next bullet point, we are only requesting the rezone of this property as an interim step, as essentially a placeholder while the city writes and then adopts a zoning ordinance for this area. Right now, city staff is in the process of drafting a TC1, which we'll call it the Neighborhood Town Center Zone, for the future development of a town center here. As we've gone through and identified the needs of the town center because of the master plan and also the specifics of the general plan, recognize we need to be very deliberate and thoughtful as we go about adopting that ordinance to make sure the vision that we've come up with the community is something that we can see as we move forward and as UDOT sells the property to a development party for future development. It is important to note that when the city does draft and move forward with adopting that zoning ordinance, there will be public noticing provided as well as rezone notice when those properties are rezoned to that TC1 zone. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have for me. Otherwise, as staff, we recommend that the City Council adopt Ordinance 2510, which would approve the rezone as described in my presentation. With that, happy to answer any questions for you.
Okay, Council, do you have any questions before we open up the public hearing on item C, the rezone request?
I'll just ask that.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
Can you maybe just review what will happen to the funds once this property is sold, right? Because it's also another public entity. Can you talk about where those funds were going to be and what they're going to be used for? So the residents can understand kind of the uniqueness of this property?
Yeah, Councilmember Bloxham, I'm happy to do that. So UDOT, as they acquire properties for any reconstruction projects, they use those funds when they go to sell those properties. They roll them back into future projects. And so just to give the public some ideas of future projects that UDOT has coming up in this area, I know the interchange at Highway 84 and 89, that's something that's definitely been on their radar. That's a plan. So the funds that they receive from the sale of this property may go towards that, but they definitely roll it back into future capital improvements with our roads.
Good question. Any other questions?
I don't think I have a question, more of a comment about this area and how currently, if you can go back to the slide that shows the zoning. So having the CP1 as is and the RS with the agricultural, if we left it this way and UDOT were to sell, then we basically would be at the mercy of whatever the zoning allows for those particular zones, right? So as a developer would purchase, they could put whatever was in the zone or in code for zoning for those types of properties. And so having this zone change and moving that to an ag zone just kind of safeguards it a little bit, not as much as we would like probably, but a little bit, which prevents a developer from just coming in and doing whatever they want. They can only do what a current ag zone allows them to do unless they came back to the council, correct?
Yep, that is correct. Yeah, excellent question. And then just to give some more insight on that, there is this one property that will remain in the CP1 zone. It is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's used as a parking lot for this meeting house. And so that if they decided that they wanted to sell that to somebody, then that's a possibility. But right now, we're just focusing on the UDOT-owned properties. And in order to advance this and to move this forward before they sell it. We know that they're interested in selling. In conversations that we've had with the church in the development of the town center master plan, they haven't had any interest in moving away from that as a parking lot. They see that as a vital resource to that meeting house.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions in council, I'd ask for a motion to open the public hearing at this time.
I move that we open the public hearing for Ordinance 25-10, the rezone request.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Yes.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, thank you. I know this is a lot of extra steps tonight, but again, we just want to make sure we treat the items as needed. So with that, I'll turn the time over to our audience. If anyone wishes to comment on item C, this rezone request.
I'm Karen Smith, and I live near this proposed Gordon Town Center. And I really want to thank Brad and Weston for being so open and sharing the the information that you've shared, council for providing an opportunity to speak tonight. One of the things that we've watched for really carefully is that all of the public input into the development of this town center be considered when this gets to a developer. And this is one really important step. So I just wanted to make sure for the record that as a citizen looking at this, when this is sold to a developer, so UDOT's going to sell the property, they're going to sell it to a developer. The TC1 master plan zoning will be clearly presented to that developer that this is what's going to go here and that they are held to that as they buy this piece of property. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, I was going to say, you might want to come explain this one.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, for the question. I appreciate your help also through the whole process. So as the city, we have provided information to UDOT that they've agreed to include as part of the auctioning of the property. It outlines the city's intent for this area. It also includes as part of that information our city's general plan as well as the town center master plan. We want to make sure that whoever ends up being the highest bidder in this auction process, right, that all of those that are looking at it recognize this is what the city's intent is. This is what we've put a lot of work and effort into. Just to let you know, we have had conversations with interested parties already, and it's refreshing to see them come forward and actually have our plan with them and ask, like, what does this mean and what does that mean, so we can explain it. And so, yeah, that's been clearly articulated, and UDOT has been a willing and helpful partner in this to make sure that that message is communicated clearly.
That's good to know, and thank you. There's one question follow-up, though. Having served in the legislature, there were times when we had legislative intent language that, unless it was actually clearly written, intent could be disregarded. We should maybe ask our attorney, how binding is intent?
Yeah, so with the intent that we've provided to UDOT, it outlines all of the things that we're looking for. When it comes to this TC1 zone, one of the requirements will be to have a development agreement with a future development party. So for the city, it would be that agreement that would be executed between us and that developer to make sure that we are agreeing, there's a mutual agreement between us that binds us together, in that process. Otherwise, we could have a very great intent and then there's nothing. We feel like with what we've communicated to UDOT, as well as requiring a development agreement and making sure that this zone that we create follows those the vision of that area, and really want to get to it as close as we possibly can, that we're getting to that right spot. So we're not falling into that legislative intent that we had a great intent and then we missed on the mark.
Thank you. That makes good sense to me. Good. Anything from the attorney that we need to have be cleared? Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Michael Christensen, I have nothing against the rezoning here. I guess want to speak for a moment on the TC1 zoning. I'll just put a comment from the public out there that probably the worst thing you could do in building your TC1 zoning is to allow all the parking to be surface level. As you're looking at that zoning and putting that together, put in some sort of requirement for 25, 30, 35% of that parking to be garaged and save yourself more space to make a walkable area, to put more shops and homes in that region. So I just caution to look at that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing that there's none, Council, I'll bring it back to you then for action regarding item C of our public hearing. So once again, we'd need to close the public hearing on the rezone request and then take action on the ordinance.
Madam Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing on the rezone request and adopt ordinance 25-10.
Okay, it's been moved in second. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Excuse me, yes.
Do a roll call on this?
Yes, we do. Okay, so on ordinance 25-10, the rezone request, we will take a roll call vote on this one. I'll start down here with Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Smith Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Bloxham? and Councilman Roberts.
Yes.
Okay, there you have it. It's unanimous on item number C. We'll now move on to item number D, which is a rezone request for the Hobbs Creek Villas. And Brad McElrath gets to present that item as well. You're getting your exercise in up and down those
Yeah,
stairs.
thank you, Mayor. Well, and thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. It's a difficult one, so excellent job there. Mayor and Council, tonight we have a continuation of an item, the Hobbs Creek Villas PRUD rezone concept plan and development agreement. There's Resolution 2516 as well as Ordinance 2508. And I'll go through some of the information from some of the previous meetings as well as just to give an overview. So for those that are in the audience that have not been part of this conversation, this is the location of where this is generally in the city, just east of Hobbs Creek Pond and south of Highway 193 and west of Highway 89. You see the overall area here the request is to rezone the property from RS, which is residential suburban, to R110 PRUD. The planned residential unit development is intended to cluster these homes to mitigate impacts with the sensitive lands in the area. Otherwise, the zoning is the same as the surrounding neighborhoods that you could see here. The only difference would be the PRUD overlay on this zone. This is, again, the location. You see the adjacent neighborhoods and also the proximity to the other uses in the area. So this is the concept plan that was provided as part of the original application for this rezone. The subdivision is divided up into a total of 27 lots, which are all put on individual building pads. Some of these pads are adjacent to each other, which you have a twin home type of situation layout there. They're all still single-family homes. There is the road layout that connects to the subdivision to the south, and then you've got a couple of cul-de-sacs here. And then parcel B of this subdivision would be open space, and then all of the areas around the homes would be considered open space as well. And to give some background, a lot of the reason for that is to address the sensitive land issues and water and adding additional water on this site. These are some images that were taken from a staff site visit that was done in the last few weeks. This is looking at a few of the lots that were brought up as some concerns from the council in the last meeting that we had. I do want to state that the applicant requested to table this from the May 15th meeting to tonight's meeting in order to have more time to address some of those concerns. And so with this, you can see the downslope. Well, this is being measured from this northwest corner of lot 108, and you can see the marker that's right there. These were all surveyed. And then this is a measurement of 25 feet out into the property. Wanted to, as city staff, take a site visit here and look at the grades, and especially the 30% grade that has been such a big concern of this project. So you see that we've got one staff member that's here with the red shirt, and then another staff member that's holding that measuring tape of 25 feet. And so that's measuring it off into this area. As you can see, it's relatively flat. Still has some grade, but not an extreme amount of grade there. Here's Lot 110, which was another one that was brought up as some concern. This is going from this southwestern corner property and measuring 25 feet out in this direction. So this is looking to the south. You have one staff member here holding the measuring tape, and then the other staff member at the end of the measuring tape, again, 25 feet out. And the reason staff took 25 feet as a measurement is that's generally a measurement that we use for in most of our zones as a setback, with a front setback and a rear setback. So we felt that that would be an appropriate measurement that we're commonly familiar with. And so as we see that, we apply that here in this situation. Lot 118 was another one. This is being measured down in this corner as well. So it's just kind of going out mostly straight from here, but you can see the downslope from the corner. As city staff, we were very intentional to make sure that when we were measuring these sites, we found where the downslope was and measured where that downslope was. We didn't want to take a 25-foot measurement and then go 25 feet in a flat area. It wouldn't do us any good to actually analyze the area. So based upon the comments that were provided from the City Council a few weeks ago, these are some of the lots that have had some modifications provided to them. So we've got lot 102, 106, 108, 110, and then 118. Some of the modifications that have happened with those, you can see that there's some angles that have changed on these buildable pads, very similar to the ones that you see on lots 126 and 127, as well as lot 123. Those all have some angles on those properties due to the fault scarp that's located in this area, and again, addressing the geotechnical concerns. So to point out lot 102 first, all of these lots, the modifications that were made by them, and they were all done by the developer with trying to address the concerns by the public and the council. So this was a 5-foot separation that they added to this building pad. So lot 102 did used to go right to that 30% line. They've now added that 5-foot separation. As you can see here, the same thing happens with lot 106, as well as lot 108. And then on lot 110, both lot 109 and 110 did shift to the east a little bit. There was enough room that they could shift these and not impact the depth of the driveways, and so they made that attempt there. So you can see also 5 feet from the 30% slope. And then also lot 118, that was one that was able to be shifted without cutting off any of the corner. Wanted to show this example of a home footprint. This is something that's been that was already included in the application. And so this is showing lot 123. You could see right here there's a dotted line along the back edge of this home. And this is, again, a concept plan to just illustrate how they would fit on these buildable pads. So you've got the dashed lines that represent the property lines of this home. So this would be the front of the home, lining right up with this area here. And then you've got that angle part of the property that's right here, where the back end of the garage and then a covered porch would be provided. The reason the applicant provided this as part of their application is they wanted to demonstrate that they have homes that would be custom designed to fit the pads of the sites, and that they were being intentional to make sure that they were providing pads that were large enough to fit the homes that they planned on, but also in a certain area that did not impact the geological areas of the property. This was some research and analysis that was done by city staff to provide a LiDAR map, which for those that aren't aware, LiDAR is a way that you can take some aerial imagery and lighting and evaluate where the slopes are on properties. A caveat with this is that sometimes LiDAR does pick up trees, but for the most part you can see it's fairly accurate on identifying where there's flat areas and then where there's areas with slopes. So any area that's shown here in red is 30% or greater of a slope. Anything that is yellow is a 15% slope. Also, it's important to note that this plan here of the subdivision shows the pads before they were modified. So you've got lots 102, 106, I think 110 over here, and then 118. I believe there might have been another one, but I can't remember which one it was, but also probably 108. All that have been modified to make sure that they are clearly outside of that 30% slope area. Know that this was something that was valuable to see, just to show in relation to this overall area around Hobbs Pond how this is a sensitive lands area of the city and where we have 30% slopes and the impacts that they have. And so it's also important to note, you can see the intentionality of this subdivision and the reason for clustering the single-family homes. The PRUD zone allows for the clustering of the homes. As stated in previous city council meetings, the property could be rezoned to R110 and try to develop the entire site, but in order to be as safe as possible and to make sure that we're following the guidance of the sensitive lands ordinance that the city has, the clustering and the support of the R110 zone with the PRUD overlay is appropriate. And then this is just showing an example. The applicant has talked about this a few times in our meetings with the council, and they do have an intent to have basements with these homes, as they've expressed before. And so there's been some concern about the location of the home and how far it is away from the slope. And this provides some information to show that there's a level of risk or tolerance. Steve probably knows the exact term that I'm trying to say here, but that it's within these parameters that are considered safe, where you're so far off of the 30% slope. So what this is illustrating here, and again, it's just a foundation example. It's not specific to these homes here, but you can see that if there was a 9-foot basement on this example home, and the 30% slope started right at the edge of the home, that basement then would be 9 feet down, would actually be 16 feet away from the 30% slope. And then as you have a larger, deeper basement, it gets further and further away from that 30% slope. Having that distance, further away from that area that might be considered a little bit, worrisome. But it is within the ranges that are acceptable. It is also important to note that, as stated by the city's third-party geotechnical engineer, as well as CMT, which is the engineering firm on this project, that the location of all the homes as they have been, even before this 5-foot separation was provided, were all with engineering levels of acceptance, and we're in safe ranges. But this one here shows when we add that 5-foot separation, which all of those homes now have, those pad sites as they're being proposed would have at least a minimum 5-foot separation. You can see how much further away from that 30% slope the basement area would be in the foundation of that home. So before it was 16 feet at 9 feet deep, it's now 21 feet from the slope. And so again, kind of gives you an idea. If there's a basement, and as we did those measurements of 25, you're kind of looking out to this area as like a 25-foot measurement on those homes. And then this was some information that's been provided by Joel and Grandy, our parks planner and city landscape architect. Wanted to just point this out. There's a few cross sections that she's provided here. Just going to review this one. This cross section is the area that we feel like would have the least amount of screening of the 4 cross sections that she provided. She provided a total of 4. One which is A, there was another B right here, and then a D over in this location. In each one of those areas, you had either there's a retaining wall on the adjacent property where the fence line ends up being a little bit higher than the adjacent grade, and so from the measurement of the trail where you can see right here, it's actually higher than 6 feet tall. At B, it gets a little bit lower, and then right here is where you'd have the trail, and then the trail would be essentially right at grade with the adjacent property. You can also see that there would be a landscape screen here of 8 feet, and you can see how that would be applied in this situation to further buffer the trail, and mostly to buffer the residential homes and provide privacy from the trail location. And then the D location over here, there's a shed on the property that is also able to provide some screening, from this. So let's see here. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions for you. I know that Steve, as our Public Works Director and as a city engineer, he'd be able to answer some questions that I might not be able to answer, but happy to answer any of those that you might have.
That was a great
Or at least try.
presentation.
So, thank you.
You did a very good job there, so thank you for doing that.
Yep.
Okay, council, any questions here?
Thank you, Brad, for presenting that. I'm going to want you to go back a couple of slides.
Of course, yeah, happy to.
So appreciate the developer for taking consideration from the questions. I know specifically I had some questions and concerns about the placement of the homes or the pads for the homes in relation to the LiDAR. And so I asked Brad if he could provide this slide. Can you talk a little bit about the development that's on the bottom of this slide here, just in relation to the slopes and what that means?
Sure. Yeah, and I'd like to also just talk about when the Heritage Crest subdivision was built, the city had not yet adopted a sensitive lands ordinance, which is now being applied to this subdivision. And so you can see here that there are some areas that some of these lots are significantly impacted by that 30% or greater slope. With that does, raise cause for concern. Just overall for the city to have any of those properties that aren't being built off of those slopes. It doesn't mean that you can't have a home that's built on a 30% slope. The city has looked at the geotechnical report and the analysis at the time that the Heritage Crest subdivision was built, and there were things that were provided with those homes that provided some additional shoring up of the foundations. But generally, 30% slope is one where you start to see need for additional engineering that's provided to that. But as you see, you've got hills that kind of come around here. This is the area out here that would be the open space, or excuse me, right here for, yeah, actually it comes out to here, which would be for this subdivision. And you can see that obviously the road is pretty flat, and then it's mostly these homes that as you get further away from Hobbs Creek Drive, you start to see more and more impact of that slope area. And again, want to reiterate, at the time that subdivision was built, it was approved by the city with the best engineering that we had possible. We did not have a sensitive lands ordinance on the books like we do today, and hence why we're going to the lengths that we are to mitigate the impacts of the current subdivision.
Thank you. So I appreciate that explanation, and I want to speak to what I believe are, I know the concerns that I had, and perhaps the concerns of many in that area, in that neighborhood, because of their experience and what this looks like and the concerns. I think that a lot of that has been placed on this potential new development as well. This slide was eye-opening to me when we saw this the first time, because I was alarmed just at all the red, right? And so I'm thankful that you were able to provide the visual for both subdivisions just to help us see and understand the real the feelings. Like, it's really visceral. It's a visceral feeling to look at this slide and then to understand folks who are living in these homes in this neighborhood adjacent and feeling like, well, if you're building on this other property, it's going to be just like the one we're in, and we're concerned. So I appreciate seeing this and being able to look at the differences between the two, but also knowing that those homes are supposed to have basements, or have to have basements according to what the developer said, and also that they have been shifted at least 5 feet away from that 30% is, it helps me feel a lot better about what this potential development could look like. Thank you.
Yeah, and sorry, I just wanted to clarify one thing, that the geotechnical report doesn't require the homes to have the basements, but that is something that the developer is intending to do. If they were to build homes that are just on a pad, a slab that's there, those would be designed, so that way the homes would still be safe. And so it's still within that level of tolerance when it comes to engineering, that whether it has a basement or not, it would still be safe within these buildable pad sites. So, yep.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Okay. So I'll bring it back to the council then to, you have two choices here. I mean, we did have a public hearing already on this, but certainly it is under our public hearing. You can reopen the public hearing again and hear from the residents on this, or you can take action. But at this point, I'll turn it over to you for your choice.
I make a motion we reopen the public hearing.
Okay, very good. It's been moved in second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, the time is now yours, so anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this rezone request, you're welcome to do so. Please keep in mind that that certainly, as I've stated before, that anyone's welcome to comment on it. If you have a spokesperson for the group, then I'll allow more time. Otherwise, we'll probably keep track of the time. And if something has been mentioned, we'd appreciate it if you don't re-emphasize the same thing. You could say you agree with it, but we definitely want to hear your concerns and your thoughts as far as this reapplication now and the adjustments that's been presented tonight. So the time's now yours.
Hi, my name is John Hill, and I'm a resident in Layton on the in the Heritage Crest neighborhood. And so I've missed the last couple of meetings due to other conflicts, but so if some of the comments I make tonight are redundant, I apologize. So hopefully
no, I didn't mean from the other meeting. I just meant for tonight.
Okay,
you're fine.
Right. So perception is reality is a phrase that we've often heard, I think. I was sitting in a work meeting, and I had a scowl on my face during the whole meeting, and so my boss gave me a hard time because she thought I did not approve of the message, but I did. But her perception became her reality. And so we, as some of the residents, have this perception that there's still some things that have not been addressed adequately. And so I'm hoping that this council can help us understand the reality of things. So I'll read a few of my comments here. There is the perception among myself and my neighbors that the city and the developer are more concerned with three things. Number one, getting the trail system connected in a particular way without full regard to the impact of the parties most directly affected. Number two, the developer's costs and their ability to turn a profit seems to be of greater importance than the financial considerations and impact to the existing residents and future residents. Three, the impact to traffic, the impact to the Andersons specifically, the property that was highlighted tonight, and the risk of future settlement seems to be somewhat take a backseat to getting the trail done in a particular way and getting the developer an ROI. That's the perception. So whether that's reality or not, that's how we're viewing it. Okay. So let me address the trail. Why is the city intent on developing the trail according to the outline plan? I don't think that's been adequately addressed because the first city council hearing on this, afterwards I talked to the developer and asked why the trail was developed in that way. And he said, in order to get his development approved, the city required him to develop it in that manner. So that seems, by perception, reality or perception, I don't know, that there's some coercion or collusion in some regard. And at that time, that outline didn't seem to fully take into account the impact to the area and what was really needed. So that's our perception. Does seem like somewhat of a conflict of interest. Now, with regards to the Andersons property, the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution allows the government to take a property by use of eminent domain for the good of the public. However, it does require just compensation. Now, with regard to the Andersons property, with it being potentially surrounded by 4 public access roads or trails, that will have a direct negative impact to their home value. If no compensation is provided to them, this could open up the city to a lawsuit due to a violation of the Fifth Amendment. According to Jordan Cullimore, who is the attorney for the State Ombudsman's Property Rights Office, it states in his remarks, it says, before property can be taken, it must appear that the taking is necessary for the use authorized by law. Courts will defer to the agency in charge of the public use on the question of necessity, as long as the agency's decision is reasonable. Agencies have a statutory duty, and this is kind of the important point, to locate public uses in the manner which will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. This would be of significant injury to the Andersons without proper compensation. So, and then finally, my final point. My property, as I mentioned last time that I spoke, 30 years ago was approved to be developed on when it was unsuitable. It had geotechnical surveys done, engineers from the city approved it, but my home, which is right in that neighborhood, right on Hobbs Creek and 3025, it was built on an old riverbed. Okay, so they all the surveys and everything said it could be done, but those who actually understood development said it shouldn't be done. The guy who helped the developer develop the property told him, don't develop on that property, even though you can, it's going to have problems. 25 years later, it did, and I'm spending hundreds of thousands, this is no joke, I can show you the receipts, to shore up my property. So, does the city council today, in the interest of short-term profit and convenience, are they willing to have their legacy be that, where they're going to allow future risk, future cost, future lawsuits, and angst for future residents to be their legacy? And you guys won't be on the council 25 years from now or 5 years from now, who knows, when these problems materialize. But is that what is in the best interest of the public good? So, in summary, help us understand the perception. Our perception, our reality is that there's collusion and coercion, and it's not necessarily in the best interest. You're also putting the city at risk of violating the Fifth Amendment, specifically with the Andersons property, and there's more things to consider. My ask is that you broaden your study to include the traffic impact. I don't think that's been adequately done. We'd like to have that done by a third party rather than just city saying, oh, it's fine, there's not going to be any impact. So there's more to this than just, can the property support the development as outlined? Sure, it can based on the engineers. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to address them now, or do you want to do them all at the end, you guys? I think what we're going to do is go ahead and hear all the comments, and then we'll try to address them at the end here.
Justin Anderson. I live right on the corner. It's interesting because I don't think you would allow a home to go in the center of a roundabout. But this is putting me right in the center of what probably would be Layton's squareabout. I've heard comments from people that, oh, there's got to be a short end of the stick. I've also heard that the trail cannot go any other place, and you can go back and look at the LiDAR that was just shown, and clearly it can go another place that was be actually very similar to what's shown on the LiDAR. That trail dead ends at a property that, as I think of right now, I don't think the city owns. I think UDOT owns it. I don't know if the city has actually gotten approval from UDOT to buy it, to do it, because in the Planning Commission it said they're going to throw a parking lot in there. So I'd probably put 2 more accesses right there. But it does leave my house completely surrounded by public access. And I will fight for it.
Okay, is there anyone else? Oh, sorry. Mr. Christensen.
Can you put the LiDAR map back up?
LiDAR.
I find it interesting as I look at this map. I'm not a geotechnical engineer, I'm a safety engineer, so I think about stuff like this every day of my life. And I look at this map, I wish this could come out sooner, and this is the original layout, right? This is not the revised squares, this is the original plan for the development, right? We look at this map, or I look at this map, and I look at the very worst, highest risk parcel on that development, and I think it might be a little bit less in danger than the best on the route, the street below it. This development was always fine. It was always fine. And I worry at the precedent that this council is setting by taking a plan that was perfectly fine and putting a developer through 3 months of delays, at least $100,000 in redesign and redevelopment for something that was fine. I find it kind of interesting also that we just approved an annexation for another sensitive area map, what you said, Loves Valley view, coming up here. You going to do that again? Because what you're doing is you're setting a precedent where you're going to ask every developer to shoot for Mars because you're going to ask for 5 feet and give them the moon instead of just doing it right the first time. That's a very dangerous precedent to set. That everything's fine, but we want more. This is dangerous. That's where your lawsuit's going to come from. On that note, I wish with all my heart that zoning was a Fifth Amendment taking. but it's not. Since I think Euclid in 1923. It would be perfectly wonderful to me if we had to compensate everyone by taking away their right to use the land as they wish. Because you, Councilman Thomas, mentioned in the meeting back there an hour and a half ago, has anyone defined what affordable housing is yet? I'll tell you what it isn't. It's mandating people put large lots with large buildings with huge setbacks. That's how you make expensive housing. That's how you don't make affordable housing. It's by doing things like this. I also looked at the lot there. You see I think it was called the Anderson property there. I thought that was interesting when it was brought up in a few hearings ago that it was going to be surrounded by pavement on 3 sides, because my brother's house in Tooele County is actually in a weird spot where it's a 1/8 of an acre lot that is surrounded on 3 sides by concrete, because there wasn't enough space to put a row of homes behind his row of homes. So he's on the end of the U. Now, he's on the end of the U because there was no other way to do it. That property's on a U because they bought a double lot, which is fine. Do whatever you want on your double lot. But it's a double lot. And it's not the fault of the original intent and the original design of those streets that the person decided to buy a double lot. And that's not a Fifth Amendment taking to build against the property who chose to build a double lot. They can do whatever they want with it. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Elaine Smith, and I used to live on 3025 North. I live at 2501 East, 1950 North right now. So these are all my neighbors, and the people who own the property right now is a dear friend. And I see what they're trying to do here. And I just wanted to remind the neighbors that 25 years ago when Heritage Crest was designed, that it took away a lot from Janine and her family as their homes went in. And now these homes are going to go in, and they've been working on this for 6 years. And they've had 3 or 4 developers come in and give up because of all this red tape stuff. So I would just like to encourage everyone to just be aware that this family needs to get this property sold. And let's compromise and let's make it good. And I don't know that it's any more crowded than 3025 North. They're about the same number of homes coming in and out. But if we could just compromise and just get it done so that Janine's family can move on and have a life after battling 6 years to get the property sold. Thanks.
I'm Claudette Matthey. I am not a resident of Layton City. I'm from Stansbury Park, Utah, but I am speaking on behalf of the sellers. And I appreciate, again, the opportunity to address you, Madam Mayor, and the council tonight. I've sat through 3
Excuse me, do you mind restating your name? Our recorder didn't quite catch it.
Claudette Matthey.
Thank you.
I've sat through 3 of these meetings now and have really listened to the concerns / complaints that have been voiced. In my opinion, these so-called concerns have only one thing to do with the sale and development of this property. The neighbors do not want this property sold or developed. Let me spell it out for just a minute. As for Mr. and Mrs. Anderson's property, and they're concerned about being surrounded by asphalt, they bought their property surrounded on 3 sides already by that. When the development down 3025 North started, the dead-end road just west of the Andersons was put in place, which ends at the property of the DePeros. They built after the roads were done, so they made that choice to build there and live there. The concern for traffic, as for the traffic trying to turn west on 193 from Hobbs Creek, that's always going to increase. Hill Air Force Base is expanding. We're bringing more people in for that military base, and people love Utah and want to move up here, so it's always going to be busy. I have a picture of a new build home in Layton on a slope at the same grade that this property has. It was approved to be built, and driving past it, it looks like it's sitting on the edge of a cliff. There's no additional slope down to the road. It is the house, you have a flat level, and you have a road. It was approved to be built on. If we're concerned about sensitive land, take a look at the world. It's all sensitive land. This seems to have turned a little bit political, and I've watched it do so. Every meeting before commencing, I agree with the perception of what the council is setting forth. Every meeting before we start, the neighbors are coming up and talking and shaking hands with all the councilmen. To me, it's reaffirm votes. This should not have anything to do with politics. I'm not a resident, but I feel like every word that I have said positive about this has fallen on deaf ears. This should be honest and fair. I don't feel that way or see it that way. One excuse after another has been raised to finalize the rezoning and the sale of this property. Sonny, Carol, and Janine have the right to sell this property. The developers have a right to develop it, just like the people around the neighborhoods have the right to sell and do what they want with their property. Two of you personally told us, Sonny, Carol, and Janine and I, that this was the perfect property, an ideal property for the Prude zoning. Now it's taken a turn. And a lot of it comes up to because of the slope. A lot of it comes up to the trail. All we're asking for is honesty and fairness in this situation. The people most involved have jumped through hoops to comply and meet Layton City's requirements. We will never be able to please everyone, especially the neighbors in the area. I really don't think they will be satisfied or happy or pleased unless this property does not sell. The delay of rezoning appears to be both biased and prejudiced against the family and the developer, which raises questions. It is based on is it on their age, their race, their gender, their religion, ability, disability? Doesn't every property owner in Layton City and Davis County have the right to sell their personal property when and to whom they want? The DePero family has owned the land much longer than the other families in the area, and those neighbors should not be able to dictate what is done with this property. Last but not least, allowing this development and approving the application will increase income to Layton City and allow the community to grow. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Daniela Harding. I do not live in the subdivision, but I live very near the subdivision, and I have been involved in sensitive lands issues in Layton City since we moved here in 2009. I would like to say, first of all, I have been to every one of these 3 meetings. I would like to commend the council for being so thorough. Sensitive lands is a very serious issue in Layton. My next door neighbor lost a home on Sunset Drive to a sensitive lands issues. Houses slide in Layton. There's been, 4 on Heather Drive, 2 on Sunset Drive. And so I applaud you all for taking this very seriously. I truly believe, and I'm not speaking for the residents of this particular subdivision, I truly believe that they are doing their best to work with the developer and come to a conceptual plan that everyone can agree on. I think we're past the point of this not being developed or denied. Councilman Bloxham in the last meeting said as much. We're not here to deny this property. We understand, and I understand, private property rights. I have a couple of questions that I would like to bring to the council's mind before we move forward. Number one, in those pictures that were shown where they had the tape measure and they were showing the grade, the one thing is there was a lot of foliage on those hills. The foliage will keep the hill stability. Is all that going to be scraped away? And that is a question I have in this, because then that destabilizes the hill. How much of that foliage would be kept on that 30% grade? Secondly, has the developer considered, since now that there's basements, I didn't realize there were basements with these, has he considered a French drain throughout this subdivision? Is there going to be some way to get the water away from the property so it can drain? I know
Sir, you're out of order. Okay, continue.
So it was a question. If I missed it, then please let me know. And so I'm trying to see if every single property has that. I know in some other subdivisions it doesn't have that. And finally, I think that it is a fair statement to have a further conversation about the trail. And if the trail needs to stay put where it is, sit down with the residents that are involved and, figure out, is that the best place? Could it be shifted to the north? I think the trail is a very small piece of this that we could work around. But ultimately, in the end, the reason I wanted to get up is I've been so impressed with how much due diligence that the council and the city has done with this, because I really felt when Eastridge was going in down by me, that it was definitely not this thorough. So thank you to the council.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Keith Sisney. I live at 2511 East, 2550 North. Not quite in a place where I would be impacted by what's going here. The first thing I want to say, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can't just do anything you want to with your property. It would be nice, but you can't do it. You've got to take a look at what the city ordinances require. There may be other things besides that, but you don't have all the rights that you think you have. Now, I'd like to give an example of two cities that have a similar situation. At one point in time, I lived in Clinton, and a subdivision was built, and there was no consideration for where the runoff water would go once it left the subdivision. And because there were streets and gutters and ways to direct the water, it got directed into ditches. Guess what? The ditches overflowed and flooded a farm, and a whole lot of cattle were underwater or up to their bellies in water. So you have to think about where it's going to go, not just what's happening right now in this particular area. You've got to ask the question, what is the impact as we go down the road? Now, I served as a temporary reporter for the Standard Examiner many years ago, and I watched something very similar. As you recall, at one point in time, our lake had a lot of water, and it had too much, actually. The water came right up to the interstate, went under the interstate, and flooded a field. Okay? And that was not too good, but what was even worse was just a year or so later, the city allowed construction of homes in that area that was underwater. They also allowed for houses to be built up on the hill. And once again, we created a situation where streets and gutters directed that water very fast down into where those homes were. And those people were very angry about it. So I think we must consider not just what's going on right here on the map. We've got to consider the ramifications down the road. And if this is sensitive land, it's sensitive land for a reason. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. I know you're going to come up, so go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is John Wright. I have lived in Layton City for 48 years. I was one of the first homes in Oak Forest when it was being built. And at that time, the trail that led to Hobbs was just a little dirt path. And there was a fence there that had a no trespassing sign. And my home is similar to the Andersons, where my home is on a corner and it's directly adjacent to the trailhead that has been opened up to the public. Before that trailhead was open and it was closed to the public, it was nice and quiet. I had not a lot of traffic around my home. I felt safe having my kids play in the yard. And now that the trailhead is open and it's adjacent to my home, I'm constantly getting beer cans thrown in my backyard over the fence. I'm getting empty chips bags thrown in my backyard. I remember when my son was 4 years old and he ran into the house with a used condom that was thrown over the fence. I've had people kick in my fence panels. And this is all people that are partying on the trail at night, coming up. They park all their vehicles along my property, and they get into their cars, they blast the stereos at night, keeps my family up. They drink the beer, they toss the garbage over the fence because I don't know why, but it's a ritual for me and my family every week to pick up trash because we have the trailhead adjacent to our home. I mentioned that we've had the cars parked along our property. Well, when they get out of their car and when they step onto my property to get out of their car, they break my sprinkler lines because they step on sprinklers. My lawn is nearly dead because of the traffic. And when they unload items out of their vehicles, the coolers, the canoes, all the recreational items, my lawn's nearly dead. I have a huge water bill because when they step on the sprinklers and break them, I don't know they're broken until the water washes away the part of my yard and the dirt's washed away. I wasn't planning on speaking until I heard them talking about this trailhead that is adjacent to their home. And I think that this is this aspect that maybe no one has thought of, that it will really affect the Andersons' property, having public access, especially the way the trail is going around the property. They're probably going to have a similar situation where they're picking up trash, and thankfully I haven't had any syringes, but that used condom, that was a deal breaker for me, having that there. That's all that I have. Are there any questions for me?
Thank you, John. Yeah, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
My name is David Tensmeyer, and I live on one of the houses that's right by that interesting LiDAR with the red edge. And I wanted to, first of all, thank Mayor Petro and members of the City Council for all of your interest, your patience with all of us, and all of these meetings. I really appreciate what you're doing. I wanted to address a couple of things. One thing was the last meeting we had, an insurance agent came up who none of us knew. I don't know how he heard about the meeting, but he mentioned that as built, these homes would be uninsurable for homeowners insurance. That startled me, because part of my reason for being up here, really, a major part, is for the people that would buy homes that would not retain their value because they would slip and move. And I think it's pretty well established that homes in our area, this whole general area, do move. The second thing was the trail, and I used to run across from another home. I've lived in the general area for over 40 years. I used to run across Highway 89 to run up to the castle up there. And that underpass is much safer. It doesn't connect to anything, though, except for the frontage road, which doesn't have room for the traffic. And I think it's about a quarter mile. I haven't measured it, but I would guess from having been a runner, it's about a quarter mile from where this trailhead is proposed to be. It would be interesting for me to see the LiDAR of that area going down right below where that connects to underneath Highway 89 and around to the trail that the city has already built. It's a dirt trail around Hobbs Pond. As an option to, it's south of where this proposal is for the trail. Seems to me like it would impact many fewer people and be a natural for the crossing the highway. A couple other brief things. Mr. Christensen mentioned that there's higher risk of the homes, of which mine is one of them, that's right on that edge. My home was built with that knowledge, with about 12 micropiles and down onto bedrock, so I know there's a risk of slippage, but I counted on that map that there are 4 lots that have similar red 30-degree slope there, and they're larger lots. The houses are a little different situation, but versus 12 lots that I counted around the edge of this one that would would be fairly close in similar situations. So it's not exactly the same. I don't think the risk is increased in the Heritage Crest where we live, and I really feel badly for Janine and her family, that they have a right to sell the property. And being told, though, that we don't want this developed is not true at all. I expect it to be developed when I moved in. I didn't expect 27 units on the parcel. I think both sides want honesty and fairness. not prejudiced against the family at all. We love Jimmy and know the other members of the family, but I don't think we are dictating as neighbors. We're just expressing our opinions about what we know about the area and about the proposed building. And a lot of my concern is for future homeowners.
Can we get the microphone turned back on?
It's on.
We can't hear.
No, do you want to just lean forward a little bit and see if that helps?
It's still good.
Someone to turn it off.
Oh, maybe I knocked it off. I'm sorry. I don't want to repeat everything. I think the voting members are heard that. I apologize to anyone else that may have wanted or happy to not have heard me. But anyway, I have a concern, like John Hill, like the Andersons. They bought that home. They didn't build that home. It was not going to have a parking lot behind it and a trail behind it at the time when they bought it. So I feel for them, and I feel for future when none of us may be here, but people that buy these homes, when they start to move, if a small PRUD becomes really an eyesore if it fails, and small PRUDs have a higher rate of failure. And I just wanted to bring up those things, ending with what I started with, that those homeowners would not be able to get homeowners insurance, according to this completely impartial spokesman we had last week. But thank you again so much for your time and your effort.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Timothy Rasmussen. I appreciate the opportunity to speak publicly to this council and to our mayor. I just want to tell a quick story. I had the opportunity today to witness the retirement from our Air Force of Colonel Timothy B. Furman. Brigadier General Bolame presented him with his retirement papers. It was a wonderful meeting, and he talked about Colonel Furman, who used to live just 2 houses west of me in East Layton in this neighborhood. Colonel Furman, if you are familiar with the name, was in charge of our F-22s at Hill Air Force Base, not for the standard 2-year term, but for 4 years, where he was doing the next right thing that kept him in command of our F-22s. When he left that, he was assigned to Pakistan, where the general asked him, "Are you aware of what's going on in Pakistan?" And his response was, "No, I'm not, but I am determined to hear you out and to listen to what you have to say." And he told him what was expected of him in Pakistan. And Colonel Furman told him, "I hear you, the light is on, I will get it done. I will do the next right thing." The general talked to him and he said, "I want you to understand that this operation gets scrubbed if it hinders in any way the relationship that we have with the Pakistans." And he said, "I hear you, General. I will do the next right thing." I have a really good friend that's a doctor. And for decades, he donated his time to Weber State's football team, their basketball team. And after retiring from being a doctor, he has remained active with his doctor's license so that he can continue to do the next right thing. And he still volunteers his time to help others with diabetes. I don't know where Mr. Christensen came up with the idea that I am going to selectively say, oh, it's only on 3 sides, and my brother's got a 3-sided. It's not 3 sides if you're not getting the full story, if you're getting a misled story. If Miss Matthey is adamant that I can sell this land and do anything I want with it, she's not familiar with city council meetings. I've developed a subdivision in Roy. I know what it takes to develop a subdivision. You have to do the next right thing. To end this, I just want to let you know that today is my anniversary. My wife and I have been married 46 years and 13 hours and 20 minutes. And this is where we chose to spend our anniversary because we need to do the next right thing. What has been brought about by this 27-lot subdivision, if somebody has a Christmas party, I don't know where they're going to park, but very well could be all up and down 3025, because there's not going to be any other place to park in a 27-lot subdivision, PRUD, that has been presented to this council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Brandon Smith, 2606 North, 2900 East. I'll be brief. I don't think citizens of Layton are concerned about racism or age or any. In fact, all the people I know are very concerned with personal property rights and the ability for people to live a life and do what they wish and find joy. I think the concern we have is that this seems like an incredible. I don't know why we need to make exceptions and zoning exceptions to allow this many units. I think ultimately, when it's all said and done, like that's what people are nervous about, is that all of a sudden we have this massive conglomerate of houses that just doesn't match the area. Safety concern, yes. They reference other houses being in similar places and it being okay, but I mean, you go in the backyards and retaining walls are sliding, they're replacing the land is absolutely moving. And I think ultimately that is the concern, is that 10, 20 years from now, if this starts to move, then what happens, right? I mean, that is what happened in 2008 with the subprime mortgages, right? You get a corporation to come in and sell a bunch of stuff that they can sell, package, and be done with. And then when crap hits the fan, they're not there anymore. And it feels like this is kind of the same thing, where we're getting a bunch of stuff just slammed through, and once houses start to slide, the profits are already in pockets, and we leave it to the city and the citizens and everyone else to take care of. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, my name is Derek Johnson, and I live on Joni Drive in the Oak Forest subdivision, which is just a little bit south of this proposed development. And as neighbors of this community, we're just concerned about really the density that others have spoken about here that's kind of in this general area, and also the trails. I will say I have 4 kids between 2 and 12 years old, and we spend a lot of time on our bikes. We love the trail that the city partnered with UDOT to put under Highway 89, so thank you so much for that. But as people who use those, we really wouldn't want this to impact negatively our neighbors like this trail as proposed will for our neighbors here in this area. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Two sentences, Michael Christensen.
Okay. Then
Every comment you've heard today about reducing the density is someone destroying affordability, trying to make things more expensive.
Thank you.
My name is Cindy Rasmussen. I live at 2589 East, 2700 North. Thank you for the opportunity to address this council. I have similar feelings as others who have come up, and I hesitated to be redundant. But I feel like it's my opportunity to have my voice heard, and I think that's what each one of you were elected to do, was to hear our voice. And I'm grateful that you would give me this time. My question to the council is a simple one. Will you listen and carefully weigh and consider what is being said by the experts and by the citizens who live in this community? Here are some key points that I've heard at the meetings and during discussions that I have been involved in. First of all, one of the major concerns that I heard was that the core samples were taken many years ago and were located in a small area on this property, and none were taken on the toe, the sensitive area that everyone is so concerned about. The concerns with this building on this land have been already expounded upon, but I would like to share that we have lived in this area for 40 plus years. And our neighbors were some of those neighbors that their homes slid off. And we listened to their concerns as they addressed the insurance companies, as they went to the builders and developers, as they came to the city council, only to be told that it was their problem, not anybody else's. They were left without homes. They weren't compensated for them. They had to start again. A tough pill to swallow. Our area has seen surrounding homeowners left with the inability to sell their homes because there's vacant land where those homes used to be. One of my dear friends waited years, took her home on and off the market, waited years to finally be able to sell her home at a much greatly reduced price. I know that Bettina referred to this briefly when she raised her concerns during the last meeting or the meeting prior to that. Is it really safe to build these homes close to the edge? I was thrilled tonight to hear that people have actually listened, that they did studies, and they feel that there was need for movement. Is it enough? I don't know, because John Hill is one of my neighbors, and I know that he's being honest with you when he says that he's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars now to shore up his property. I know that it was referred to that the insurance agent that came, that was unbiased, no one asked him to come. He just heard about this dilemma, this problem, this concern. And he stated that his company, a reputable insurance company, would not insure homes built in this area on that close to the edge. Are we listening? Existing homeowners in a community raised concerns. One of them was a concern about the access point and the traffic on the bend. How would this affect? There have been accidents on that bend that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are many more that I'm not aware of. If the access point is in the wrong place and we build that many homes with that many drivers, it used to be that we only had one car to a family. But that's not the case anymore. Everyone has 3 or 4 vehicles. This is becoming a very crowded community. We've watched it grow over the last 40-plus years, like maybe some of you have. We've seen UDOT come in and try to help us to have better roads and better systems of accessing our property. Changing the zoning on this land may lower the value of existing homes that were bought with an understanding that there was a road stubbed in for a continuation of the existing zoning of the current development that is there. This isn't, if we change the zoning, this isn't what they bargained for. This isn't what they thought was going to come down the pipe. I know circumstances changed, but with all of the discussions that we've had and all of the things that have been said, I just can't help but believe that perhaps this type of development is not the proper development. Janine Stoll is in my ward. I love her. She's been my visiting teacher. I've been hers. No one is trying to make it so that the Stolls do not sell this property. They're asking for the next right thing to be done. The beauty of our community should be preserved. A young man named Preston came up and spoke to you at one of the meetings and talked about the love he has for this property and the desire that he had to preserve the view of that property. Becky Anderson has talked about how they built their home and raised their family here because they love the beautiful area and her concern for its future becoming like a resort community. Why would we need a resort community? We have a beautiful natural setting that is far superior to any resort community. Many of us built our homes and lives here because of the natural beauty and charming neighborhoods and wish to keep the zoning as it is to preserve the area. My understanding is that this council is the final step in this rezoning process. You're elected officials by the citizens who live in this community and voted for you to be their voice. Are you listening? Will you listen? So I ask as a concerned citizen to please listen carefully and weigh, considering the information you are presented. Further, I ask that you recognize that the authority that you have been given and make an unbiased, well-researched, well-informed decision. I'm so grateful that we live in this beautiful community and have the freedoms to speak. I know this is a difficult situation. I know it's a difficult decision, but I do believe that it deserves all the care and all the research that you have done so far. And my hope is that the right thing will be done. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, was there any last comments? Otherwise, I think we've heard from most of them. Okay, sir, you're welcome to come up.
Adam Anderson, Anderson Development. Mayor, City Council, thank you for your time. I know this has been an ongoing challenge, but I think you've given it the due diligence it really needs for your consideration. I appreciate the feedback, and we've taken that to heart, and I think we've applied what we thought was helpful to make the project a little better. We thought it was good. You said it needed to be a little better, and we took that to heart. So I think that was a useful exercise to go out on site and see the impact of that 30% line. And I might add too, if I could, to the west of that line, IGES, in addition to CMT and Geostrata, another geotechnical engineer, has designed retaining in there as well to help further stabilize that hillside. There was a couple questions that came up, if I could just quickly address those. I don't want to take too much time. I know we've talked a lot about this project, but on the vegetation around that, I know Fire has an urban fire plan that he would come out on site and indicate which structure, mainly it's brush, a lot of oak brush that needs to be thinned out so it's not a fire hazard. He wouldn't let us have oak brush right up against the house, which is understandable. That's a safety concern. And so, but the intent is to keep every bit of natural vegetation we can. In fact, as you look at the site plan, the only place there's any grass at all is on the far east side near the pickleball courts. Everything else is meant to be natural vegetation just for that purpose of preserving the slope. Next was I believe, French drains. We did bring that up about drains and trying to do a low-impact development. After further review, they said, hey, we don't want to do any kind of change in discharge. We want natural, but we want to control how much is coming down on that and make it as equally applied across the surface as possible. That's always been the number one safety concern since we started this project, was surface water infiltration. And so that's why we started, and this is really honestly why we came up with the design we did with HOA, was to control the surface water infiltration. And that's how we got to this point with this type of layout. And so anyway, again, I appreciate the time. I know staff has put years into this, and you've put a lot of due diligence in looking at this project. I do appreciate that. I'd avail myself to any questions if you have anything of me.
Mayor, I have a question. I see on this picture here, the private street at the top. Is that some additional parking for the subdivision?
It is correct. So that one, and then there, in the other one, there's some more off-street parking as well.
But just those two, right?
Correct. And then plus, I think you saw on the one illustration, we have tandem garages plus that. So we'd have 3 in a garage, 2 in a driveway. So we'd have 5 per structure. And then we upsize the street so we could have parking on one side plus the off-street parking. So we're well over, I don't know the exact numbers, but we're significantly over double what we're required as far as parking.
So to be clear, and I had this question when the parking concern came up, these are all public streets with the exception, I don't know, the cul-de-sacs are private streets. So the public streets have parking on one side?
Just one side.
Additional?
Yes.
None on the private, though? With the exception of those lots that are bumped out?
They can do single-sided parking. There's not much, as you can see, except like to the side, north side of 122, there's a little bit of room. But you're right, on the street parking itself, a little bit up to the north of 112. Outside of that, it's really meant to be on off-street parking was our goal and desire. You don't want to come into a subdivision that's just parked all over the street. So that's why we wanted to get as much off-street parking as we could get. Okay.
Any other questions for the developer? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and have our staff come back up and kind of address some of these questions that were brought up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I want to thank the public for their comments and also their questions. Try to do my best to answer them and be respectful of the comments that have been provided tonight. So some of the comments that were brought up, and they seem to be pretty common, some concerns about the location of the trail. We've talked about this before in the other meetings, but let me see if I can go back and kind of show an overall larger picture of the subdivision that shows the trail location a little bit better. So this shows the general location of how the trail will come up and around this location here. The reason it was designed this way, and the city did take multiple stabs on how to have a more direct route and not have it come up and around, or also to not have it in this exact location. The main reasons behind the exact location, and also the Caves Creek Trail, we tout it a lot as it's a recreational trail and it serves only that purpose. A big purpose for the Caves Creek Trail is that because this area of the city is in an urban wildland interface, and we have the dangers of forest fires and those types of things. The need to have a wide enough trail and to have it in a location also with the grades on the hillsides here, that you could have a brush truck that gets down to that area. Now, to do it's their very best, to fight any type of a fire or any emergency that might happen along the trail. So that's really why it doesn't go back and forth. At one point, there was some design that showed it having some switchbacks that came up to here. It comes around this bend because of the grade changes, but then also the location and having it go out to connecting to Hobbs Creek Drive is, for accessibility, for emergency access. And that's a lot of why the city, identified this area, and also, the connection to the existing trail that it is there. There are some concerns. I think the developer did a good job at addressing questions about the French drains and having, any of the brush that's taken away from this area. I thought that was a good question. As a city planner, we try to make sure that we're addressing those things and providing vegetation in areas where it can support the hillside and make sure that things don't fall off there. I know that there's some concerns about the PRUD and the size of that, and feeling that that's an exception to the zoning that's there. The zoning does match the same zoning in this area. It's R110. The PRUD is the only thing that is different. And as stated before, the usage of the PRUD is to cluster the homes because of the sensitive lands issues. Otherwise, this property and city staff, we wouldn't recommend anything other than going with a zone that is similar to the existing zoning to match the existing neighborhood and be compatible with that. There are some concerns about the long-term viability or what might happen 10 to 20 years down the road. Again, that's the whole purpose of why we have a sensitive lands ordinance, because there's been lessons that have been learned. And I think that the city, has done its best over the years, recognizing that there have been situations where we've had hillsides, fall off, or, that there have been homeowners that have lost their homes, and it's been a really awful thing for them to happen. And it would be really sad if the city didn't learn or take any lessons from that and try to have ordinances that help prevent those things from happening. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is with that ordinance, apply those regulations to make sure that things are being addressed well. And I know Steve also took some notes. Steve, is there anything that I'm missing that you took notes on? Any of the comments? I try to take copious notes, and sometimes when you take copious notes, you get lost in your notes. So, because I just wanted to make sure that I was recognizing all of the questions and concerns from the residents. But, yeah, Steve, if there's anything else that you might have taken note of, Councilor, Mayor, is there anything that you feel like I missed in answering those questions?
I followed through my notes pretty well. I think you covered a lot of them. The only thing that I think that we didn't discuss that was brought up is regarding the trail as far as the rerouting. Did we take a look at it as far as coming out closer to the tunnel?
No, that's a good point. And yeah, I remember going and checking out the trailhead and also that tunnel location and looking down into that area and recognizing that it had a pretty significant slope as well.
Yeah, it does.
Based upon my site visit here and also seeing that trail location, it seems to probably be a similar slope and would probably have similar challenges to that and having to have switchbacks there. Me personally, I have not reviewed that. I don't know if our Parks and Rec staff have or if our Public Works engineering staff have evaluated that specific location. But based upon my initial analysis of that, I think we would run into the same challenges here or there as we do here, and why we have this routed the way it is. So I know that that's not a perfect answer because I don't have a perfect analysis.
It's an honest answer.
But yes, I'm trying to be honest with the fact that that's as much as I know. Steve, do you know anything more about that other than? Sorry, I'm throwing him on the spot here because
no, that's okay. This is what tonight's all about. I mean, we got to be able to get everything out so that we can make the right decision going forward.
Thank you, and thanks, Steve, for letting me throw you in.
Oh yeah, no problem. I do know that Joellen has looked a lot into where this trail goes. She has a master plan that they have extensively looked at, being somewhat familiar with the grades around the point and that area. I don't believe that it's much more feasible to take it out there without creating some of the same challenges or problems on those slopes by cutting a trail into there. As we've looked at this and worked with Joellen over the years, we've explored a lot of different alignments, trying to minimize how many places a pedestrian would need to cross the roads or cross driveways or other things that kind of make the trail less desirable to use. And so from my perspective, as we've looked into this, the other alignment trying to come out down at the bottom was fully vetted when they built that underpass, and then the trail connections that they did just complete to bring it up to where it is based on that master plan.
Okay. I'm going to read. Go ahead.
I think one comment that came up that probably would be directed to our attorney about the Anderson property being surrounded by the public access. And I think the comment was some type of legal. I can't find my comment now. Compensation because they're surrounded by 4 public accesses, and that being against the Fifth Amendment and any other legal issues. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I completely understand what he was saying, because he's talking about taking property, and this proposal doesn't take any property. So I'm not sure what he's referencing.
Anyone else?
This talked about the PRUD in, I think, 3 meetings ago. What could if it was R110, I guess I should preface this with a question. We have a sensitive lands issue or ordinance, not so that we can't build on sensitive lands, but so that we do it right. Is that an accurate statement? Mm-hmm. So if we were to view a development that was R110 on this property, taking account all of the whole parcel, what could the max density be if it was zoned R110?
Yeah, so off the top of my head, I don't remember what the max density would be. If it was just R110, I believe I have to look it up. I think it's about 3.5 units to the acre. I know that if you use the PRUD, you can have a max density of 4.9 units to the acre, but with this specific subdivision, it's not even close to the 3.5. So it's even the way it's designed, I do know that it's below the density that would be allowed by right with the R110 zone, because the R110, the density is always taken based upon the overall area of the property.
Including the space you're not building on.
Yeah, including the space that you can't even develop on, right? And so even taking all of that area out, the density that we're getting overall in this area, and I know that this was brought up in a previous meeting about the density in this specific area versus the overall area, we just have to look at it as a city that we're evaluating and applying that standard equally throughout the city, that we'd look at it as this one property and what's that density for the entire area, which it is under that total amount. Another aspect of that is that this specific developer, Mr. Anderson and his group, before this concept was created, they did look at an R110 shot. And the challenge with that was that they did run into sensitive land issues, and it didn't have the circulation that this does. It didn't fit the lots, and it didn't have to provide the access that it needed to. And it ran into issues where it wasn't meeting the sensitive lands ordinance, as well as this, like this one does right now, where staff could be at a position where we could recommend approval of the rezone. So with that, they walked away from that design because there was too many things that they had to do that would not make it comply with the sensitive lands ordinance. So that's why they've made it here. Mr. Anderson, he's talked about, the reason that they have these pad sites has to do with a lot of the water. And a straight up R110 zone, the challenge that we would have with that by not having these pad sites is that we could have overwatering of properties. And we've talked about that in previous meetings, and so I don't want to dive into that ad nauseum. But really, a lot of the reasons behind the way this subdivision is designed this way is to address the sensitive lands as best as possible and make sure that when the homes are built on the property, if homes are built on the property, that there's not additional water. We're not taking away from the existing vegetation as much as we can. So that way, as those concerns were brought up, we're limiting the ability of the slope to hold water and also to stay up. So hopefully that answers the question. Sometimes I can be a little long-winded in those answers. So.
You're good. Thank you, Brad.
Yep.
Mayor, I have one more question.
Absolutely.
And this actually may be for the developer, but the question is, not with this, but with the modified plan, does the location and or placement of the trail prevent you from doing the development the way that you have it listed already? And I guess the reason I'm asking that is because I also talked to Joellen when we were at the trailhead, and she did mention about the brush truck and having the size and the grades be what they need to be in order for the truck to get down there in case of an emergency. But if there are opportunities for, if she has, I'm sure she's looked at this because Joellen's very thorough, but for the sake of the council and the public in this question, would you be prevented from moving forward with development if the trail location were in limbo? Does that make sense?
Yes, I think I understand the question, and to that point, I don't believe that's going to impact the development. We still got a little ways to go through plating, et cetera, so the finish line is still a ways down the road, I believe. Rezone's the next step, but we got a ways to go before we would start breaking ground if we were to get to approval. So to your question, would the trail need to go in right away? No. We would have to provide access to some utilities down on the south, that's the southwest side, just for access to the storm. But outside of that, it wouldn't impact the rest of the development at all.
Thank you.
That's a good alternative. Okay. Anyone else here?
Brad, I wish Dave or Joellen was here. I'm wondering if it would negatively impact the trail system, the development, if the section, what's the road? What's that? If that section of trail wasn't included in the development. Because the brush truck can still access from the stub road.
Yeah, it is a public street that comes through there. You're right. I wish that they were here as well to be able to answer that question. I know that the reason it goes out to have it connect to Hobbs Creek Drive is to provide a more direct connection down to where that tunnel was talked about. So by taking people on the trail and having it go directly out to Hobbs Creek Drive, it avoids going through the Heritage Crest subdivision or through this subdivision, more as just a direct connection. That's my understanding, but again, they're the experts on that.
So you're just talking the
If I could clarify real quick also, that trail is going to be a utility access for the sewer and the storm drain that drains the Heritage Crest subdivision that we've had extreme difficulties accessing with the public works vehicles. So it's not just a brush truck, it's fairly decent sized utility maintenance vehicles that we need to get down there as well.
Okay.
So then I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, can you address, though, I think what the concern is behind the Andersons' property, is that really necessary? Because you've got the public street just to the west of their property, and the trail actually crosses that.
I believe in the discussions, as Brad mentioned, Joellen has looked at that. The reason that she and the city is recommending that connection is so that in the future, when people use this trail, we won't have people using the trail parking in the neighborhood, Heritage Crest or this neighborhood, and that's where once the demand for the trail is great enough that then they would be working towards putting that trailhead in sometime in the future, so that it wouldn't be, I guess, an annoyance or a nuisance to the neighborhood by having the users of the trail park in the subdivision. If you don't put that connection in, then the odds are people are not going to try and use a trailhead. They're going to just go park as close as they can to that walkway right there, and then in the neighborhood be probably parking in front of people's houses or driveways or things like that.
That's the best answer I've heard. That could be a huge negative impact in the future for both those developments. Thanks.
Okay. Additional questions? Did you have one, Bettina?
Just that we still need Joellen, and she's not here, and that's not her fault. But I was just even thinking about, like, if the proposed parking lot that's, set to go there later, if that were still there, and this area behind the Anderson's lot was not, connected through, but there was a parking lot that was advertised as for the trail. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, right? And it's not connected technically, but it does still offer opportunity. Where there's more parking, people will go there if it's not far away. So I don't know. I think that there may be still some options that there may be opportunity for Joellen to kind of give us more detail around that. And thank you for the additional information you gave about the public works trucks, because I didn't really have that. I only had the information about the brush trucks.
Yeah, could I answer that a little bit? I think some of the things here, as we're talking about where the parking lot would go and what the impact might be here, there was some good information provided from the general public. Some of what we could be saying might be conjecture at this point too. I think about that, and if I'm just trying to put myself in the position, if I'm using the trail, if I'm going to park here and then go down and use the trail, I'm afraid I'd probably walk in front of the Andersons' home and around their home to then get to the trail, or I'd end up going up this way, depending on where the location of that parking lot is. Generally speaking, human beings, and whether we're driving a car or we're walking, we try to take the path of least resistance, and
the shortest route.
I'd hate for, same thing, parking vehicles in front of people's homes, or even just walking in front of their homes to access the trail, which I know that they've already expressed those concerns of people trying to get down and access the trailhead already as it is. I think providing a parking lot is recognizing that there's already a demand and trying to mitigate some of the aspects that we already have there.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe just to add to that, that is our current experience all across the East Bench. In fact, we had a robust discussion with an HOA, Layton Ridges, where the city people were parking in the subdivision to connect to the trail, and we had the same idea. The city built a parking lot that was a little further away, down in a place that could accommodate them, and there's a few people who use the parking lot, but most people continue to go up and park the closest. So the irony is that they go to recreate and to exercise, and yet they won't park and walk 500 feet to connect to the trail. They want to park right in front of the trail. So there's a lot of things that are theoretically possible, but our experience all across the East Bench is that it simply doesn't work, and will have foreclosed, from staff's perspective, will have foreclosed the opportunity to do it in a way that we know is effective based on bad experience. And people are still upset, but they're just upset for a different reason. And that's because now they're crossing through backyards and side yards and parking in front of it, creating access problems. And people will do that because of public streets. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Any other questions, council? Okay, if you don't have any other questions, then I'm going to bring this item back around for action. So what I'll ask for is that you close the public hearing and take action on the rezone request and the concept development agreement for the Hobbs Creek Villa PRUD.
Clint, this is a site plan, not a development agreement, not a proposal. I mean, what, is it a development agreement?
You said it's not a site plan.
This is a site plan,
Yeah,
correct?
and there is a development agreement attached to it.
Attached to it? So,
Yep.
Okay, so this is what we expect.
Yeah, there could be some, if approved, there could be some general slight modifications, but it would have to remain substantially the way it is as approved.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and adopt Resolution 25-16 and Ordinance 25-08.
Okay. Is there a second on this?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we adopt the rezone request. I will take a roll call vote on this. So I'll start with Councilmember Robert. Well, do you need further discussion? I was going to say, it's been several meetings, and I know this is a tough one. And I just hope that you realize that we're really, truly trying to vet all information and allow this council to come up with the right decision here. So with that, I'll call for a vote. I'll call it out with Councilmember Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I explain my vote?
Absolutely, you can,
Please.
as you state it.
This is a difficult one, and I've been on both sides of this vote, as it's shown in the past meetings. But the reality is I said a little bit ago, we have a sensitive lands issue, not so that we cannot build on a property, but so that we can do it right. We also have other ordinances so that we can do it right, and I think the PRUD is I believe it is a good place for this. We could have the same density in an R110 if we put a lot more, if we built on those hillsides and we took out all the brush. However, the PRUD allows us to secure or save all of that wild land, all of that open space. That's a great view out of backyards, I'm imagining. And it's a great thing to look at from the west either also. So I believe my concerns have been addressed that I've had, and with that I vote yes, please, or yes, Ms. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to mix this up a little bit. Councilmember Smith Edmondson.
Sorry. The mix-up. I felt the mix-up. So I'm going to explain my vote as well. This has been a very interesting and long set of meetings, including one where my 8-year-old wanted to come visit, and we were here, and she was asleep on the front row, bless her heart, and still wanted to come back another time. So I'm thankful for her desire to participate and to see how things work. I have visited with residents in the neighborhood, the neighboring area. Prior to that, I went and walked around, probably trespassing on my own, just to kind of see the lay of things, and have had discussions and others and been able to walk out and see. I appreciate the diligence of the staff for enduring our questions, because none of us are experts in this space. We're elected to represent all of the residents of Layton, not just any one particular neighborhood or group, all of us who live here. And so we try to do our due diligence. We ask the tough questions, and sometimes staff gives us a side eye, and we're like, sorry, we just need to know these things, but they go back and they find the answers that we ask them for. So thank you for your patience with us. Brad, you did an awesome job presenting the entire thing tonight. So kudos to you on that. I want to address the developer. I was ticked at the last meeting by the way the discussion went after we had our questions. But to be true to myself and who I am and my faith, I did not let that keep me from looking at all sides, like listening to all sides of this. And I appreciate you for listening. I appreciate you for pushing back homes, specific lots that I asked about. I hear Steve in the back of my ear saying 30% is acceptable, it's fine, it's legally okay. And so I do know that we could have approved this 2-3 meetings ago, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that because of the residents in the other development, the homes that we've seen, actually standing, walking that trail and seeing those homes, and just understanding, as Daniela Harding mentioned, there are a number of homes that have slid, and one home sliding is too many, right? So I do appreciate you for going back and reworking those sizes, those setbacks. That's important to me. I feel much more comfortable about the spacing now, especially in looking at the overlay between the two neighborhoods. And that was something that was very eye-opening to me. So thank you for listening and doing that. I still have some questions regarding the trail, but the trail is not make or break with regard to the development, and that's something that is city related and the city's responsible for, and that's something that our staff can help us understand better. So with that, I am going to vote aye on this rezone and this ordinance because I do believe that we have done our due diligence, tried to hear all parties, all sides, and understand what is best for the entire city. And just to Mr. Christensen's point, the density in this area is not necessarily related to housing affordability, because these homes will not be first-time homes for anyone. They will not be affordable for that first-time home buyer. So I understand your density discussion, but that is not really related to this particular development. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
He's here. This is when I have to refer to my wife's thing that she made for me. I guess it's time to explain. I've never really had a problem with everything happening. The due diligence that was done by the developer. I mean, I won't say impressed, but I thought he's really gone through it, and I understand that. And then to come back and do some things that he felt like, would help. And I agree that they're not going to hurt. They're going to, I'm a little confused. That's not the right word. I don't like the trail, but I can't see stopping everything because of the trail. Sometimes life just sucks. And I'm sorry. That was my word, not my wife's. But I would have said aye, and I am saying aye but it would be nice if the developer and get with, I forgot her name already.
Joe Ellen.
Joe Ellen. I mean, see what can be done. I mean, I don't know the answer. I know what Woody would do. For those that know him, Woody would plant pyracantha everywhere he didn't want people to walk. And he was our old parks superintendent. But, and I guess I need to just leave it at that or I'll bury myself.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Morris?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll add this has been a robust process. We've been on the council, some of us, for 6 years almost, and we just adopted, we kept the public hearing open for the next, we're going to adopt a budget of $130 million, and we had a budget last year that was under that we didn't have anybody come and even question or talk about, and so you take that compared to tonight and the two previous meetings and the work sessions, and I appreciate the dialogue back and forth. I appreciate the passion of the residents and your concerns. I was, the first meeting, I mentioned the fact that I was glad that you were talking about safety and those concerns, and not that you didn't want the development in the area. And so I took that to heart. We had the second meeting, and concerns were brought up by Councilwoman Smith Edmondson, and I agreed. I wanted more information from the geotech firms, and I felt like if we could take care of those lots that we talked about in that meeting, that I would be in a better place. I know we've asked the developer to do more than what the ordinance, the PRUD ordinance, may have called for, and that's fine. This is a legislative decision, and he listened. And I also had mentioned we're a city of laws and ordinances, and there have been many people, councils before us, I've mentioned planning commissions, planning commissioners that worked diligently after what had happened in some areas of the city to put together an ordinance that would be the best ordinance moving forward to help mitigate issues that none of us can control. We can't control. There could be an earthquake tonight, and none of this would even matter because we'd have lots of houses with issues. We can't control everything. But we've used the best wisdom from the past. You've all come, you've asked questions, you've made us think, you've been very passionate, and I appreciate that. And we haven't had an issue like this where we've had so many public meetings and public hearings since I've been on the council, and even before, running before for council. This has been the most robust discussion, and so I appreciate the residents, I appreciate the staff and their diligence, I appreciate the developer and patience as well, and I appreciate the property owners and their desire to make this a better place for others and to share that beauty there. So with all that, I'm voting aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bloxham.
Yeah, I appreciate the dialogue. I won't repeat any of the things that have been mentioned, but I do appreciate people feeling passionate about an issue and coming and speaking. I always appreciate that I could visit on the site and that I could review it and that I could review all the information that we received in terms of geotechnical, city engineers, everything, planners. Appreciate all the information that we've gotten. And I think it's important to know that when residents come up on one of these dais to give us information, that we really do care what you have to say. It's not just lip service. And sometimes reasonable people can disagree. And that's kind of where I am with my fellow members of the council. This was a very difficult one, and one it doesn't matter now. It's already 4 yes votes, but I just couldn't get to yes, so my vote's no. And it's not because I didn't think that it was a well-conceived plan and that the developer tried to do the best they could, but I just couldn't get to yes. And my hope is that the sensitive lands and all of the experts that have put together information about this is good, this is fine, that will be good. But this was a legislative decision, and it's probably the one that caused me the most consternation since I've been on the council. And I couldn't get to yes because I just didn't feel like I could. And so with that, I don't need to take any more time. But I do appreciate the communication that we've had. And I appreciate both sides, and I hope that the development works out really well. I hope that it can be a place where those who own the property can feel like they can have it developed in the way that they wanted. And I hope that the people who move in will feel neighborly with the people who live on the other street. I know some of those people. They're good people, and we want Layton to be the best that it can be. And I'm hoping that this development and this discussion and dialogue that we've had shows that we do care what our residents think, and even if we don't always come to the same opinions, that we appreciate the rigorous dialogue. So with that, Mayor, my vote is no.
Okay, thank you, Council. So it's a 4-1 vote in favor. I'm not going to repeat either. I'm just going to say thank you for your participation. Thank you for the numerous hours that have been put into this. In the time that I've served, I can say that this has probably been the again, probably the most thought out, well-discussed piece of legislation that's been brought before this governing body, and it's tough. And I mean, the election season is upon us. You can see that these decisions are tough. It really puts you in a hard position, but I support this council in their conclusion, and I hope that you will do as mentioned before. Let's just part knowing that we've all done our due diligence and really trying to come up with what was the honest and most ethical decision tonight. So with that, I'll look for a motion to close our meeting, and once again, may you all travel safely home, and thank you for being here.
I make a motion, we close this meeting.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved in second. I'm going to acknowledge that. So with that, thank you again, and God bless you all. Thank you.